content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Jessy K. This is Grizzly True Crime and I can't wait any longer. The sentencing has got to happen now. If any of you have been watching today, unfortunately I couldn't start earlier because the judge set the sentencing for the whole day, okay? And I had a previous appointment, right? But I just want to watch this with you now. We can't delay it. We'll watch this sentencing first. Then we're going to go back to the victim impact statements, which was... So I was lurking as much as I could before my appointment, and then we'll watch as much as we can of Kurczewski's cuck. Sorry, there's another way to say it. Welcome mods, welcome everyone. Please like and share. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, Amy Short, for being here. Amy Short, if you didn't know, is a family member of the victim, and she is here with us. I'm so glad that you feel safe here with us, and we are here to support you and see full justice for Jessy Kurczewski. If you know nothing about this case, please check out the description box. There's a write-up there for you. There's a link to the playlist. It's called the Eye Drops Murder Trial. And oh my goodness, this sentencing was delayed by months. 5 months. Oh, it was supposed to happen on December 12th last year. And this freaking Kurczewski pulled a couple of stunts, you know, writing letters, saying she didn't write it. They showed some of that today as well from when I could lurk. But anyway, we're going to get to it. Let's watch the sentencing together. Are we ready, Grizzlies? Are we ready? Here we go. Okay. So, I'm just going to forward till when they sound. Here we go. New attorney. She's gone through attorneys like Sarah Boone.
We are back on the record in State versus Jessy Kurczewski. Appearances are as they were before. Court has reconvened after the lunch hour to pronounce sentence in this case. Before I pronounce sentence, though, I do want to go through some of the remarks that were made here today and my impressions of this case, this trial, and the jury's verdict. Not commenting on their verdict, but we're here.
Sorry, I was just trying to not let the sound distort, okay? So I hope the sound is good. I boosted it for you. Judge Dorow. I think she's going to be our hero. I can't wait. I can't wait. We have to watch this together right now. Here we go.
Here today, first and foremost, because there were 3 jury verdicts in this case. 3 guilty verdicts. 1 for intentional homicide and 2 for theft. And that, of course, was the culmination of a case that was initially filed in June of 2021. Of course, not the start of the investigation, not the start of legal problems for the defendant. I'm well aware that ultimately in 2019 you were revoked in part due to allegations related to these charges. And it was basically upon your discharge the day before that this case was filed. Now, from my perspective, not only was this a very unusual case due to the allegation of a poisoning by an over-the-counter substance found in Visine, it was unusual because of the amount of time that was put into the investigation. I don't think anyone watching this trial, sitting in this courtroom, or even watching, summaries of it, was surprised that in October of 2018, the death investigation, which was very normal, anytime someone was found deceased outside of a hospital setting, required a death investigation. I don't think anyone was surprised that initially people on scene thought it was a suicide. That's the call that came in. That's how really the scene looked. I think it was Detective Loberg who said there were no signs of forced entry. He looked outside, he looked inside. There wasn't anything to suggest any type of external trauma. He'd been on overdose cases in the past. You know, there weren't any syringes found or anything like that, but there were the crushed pills and some other things. And I think that scene was made to look a certain way for a reason. On the one hand, the defendant wants us to believe that this is all a big mistake, that this was a suicide. And of course, the state presented a case to a jury with a lot of evidence, and a jury found that it was not a suicide. And I'll be more specific. They were not asked to determine whether it was suicide. They were asked to determine whether it was a homicide. And of course, if a jury believed it were a suicide, they would have found you not guilty. That would have been their reasonable doubt. But that's not what they did. But that investigation, like any investigation into a death, doesn't happen overnight. Doesn't happen in a vacuum. Samples are taken from the body, and those samples are ultimately tested. What I think is really interesting for me is that somewhere along the way, a very astute scientist thought it was important enough to ask NMS Labs, and it's, I'm sure, one of their scientists, to include in their expansion.
I'll try not to interrupt too much because this is going to be so good. It's the sentencing we've been waiting for months. Full justice for Lynn Hernan. I can't wait, okay, to see how Judge Dorow sentences her, because today she let Jessy Kurczewski talk for what felt like forever and ever and ever and ever, reading more crappy letters, trying to convince the world that she didn't do this. In there, I think she watched some of our coverage because she's like, these people saying that I killed Lynn's cats, and she was trying to defend herself there. We'll watch that after. We're going to be here for a while. I just want to start with sentencing first, then we're going to go back to all of that, okay?
Expanded panel, tetrahydrozoline, an over-the-counter, well, a drug found in over-the-counter medication. I don't want to say it was a trend, but I know when listening to the testimony of Dr. Kacinko, she said one of her responsibilities was to look for trends in drugs. And even when we listened and heard Dr. B testify, she talked about how while this may have been the first poisoning she had seen through tetrahydrozoline, it was not the first time she was faced with looking at something novel or new. That's part of her job. I mean, scientists do this all the time. They take known information, known data, known research, and when faced with something not seen before, they render opinions. They extrapolate. That's how medicine grows, and advances are made, whether it be by pathologists who are medical examiners or cancer researcher. And if you kind of flip it around and think about cancer research, we would praise someone for that type of work. And so unbeknownst to everyone in this courtroom, in 2018, tetrahydrozoline was not something we expected to find. It was not something any of these detectives knew was even going to be screened for. It was not something the medical examiner knew to screen for. And I do believe it was something you, Ms. Kurczewski, banked on no one testing for.
Tell her, Judge.
As you know, I sat through this entire trial. And not just this trial, but obviously the entire case, presiding over a variety of motion hearings, including the Daubert motions, where I heard from a couple of the experts and made some rulings. And I know you take issue with a lot of my rulings, and I will gladly challenge those. You can challenge those on appeal. I'm one person sitting up here doing the best that I can, given the law and the facts that are before me. And whether it's 3 individuals on the Court of Appeals, if that's appropriate, or all the way up to the Supreme Court wants to review and tell me I got it wrong, I am human, but I don't think I got it wrong in this case. You may not agree with the decisions that I made, but let me tell you, I did my utmost to ensure that you had a fair trial. Every step along the way, wanting to make sure if I delayed something, you were okay with it, because I knew, because you made it abundantly clear, you were waiting for your day in court. And you and I had a number of colloquies or conversations in this courtroom or other courtrooms about the delays. Because honestly, I want to make sure that any trial, especially a homicide trial, is done right the first time. It's of no benefit to anyone if convictions get reversed on appeal. It happens sometimes. There's advances or new evidence or whatever the case may be. You complain, for example, about my protective order. And I think little do you realize, not only did I put that in place for the integrity of these proceedings, it was put in place to protect you. See, I've sat in the shoes of Attorney Jones. I didn't like when there were surprises. As an attorney, as a defense attorney, I wanted to control the narrative as best as I could to protect my client and his or her rights. Now, when I was on the other side, in the state's table or at the state's table, I used to train police officers on confessions. I love confessions. Why do I love confessions? Makes my job easier as a prosecutor. So I have this unique ability that really not a lot of judges have to look at both sides, and now really the third side as a judge, and kind of see what's going on. And so every time you make an extra statement, you complicate things for your defense team. That's your right to do it. But I wasn't going to have that happen until this case. I didn't want to have extrajudicial statements, meaning outside a court trial, or in this case, a sentencing as well, that could impugn the integrity of these proceedings. It's not good for you. It's not good for the case. We want to make sure we have a jury that's fair and impartial. And in this particular case, there were extra steps taken because of the interest. You may not have, I guess, liked, I'm gathering from your statements here today, that there were cameras in the courtroom and that this was on court TV and law and crime and other things. But here's the thing. I learned...
And Grizzly true crime and other things. Other ladies from other countries, sure, them and their whole community, they were watching. And we were. And she seemed to address it, okay? Jessy Kurczewski. We'll watch that later, okay? We'll wait for the coffee to kick in.
During and following the pandemic, when we shut down courts, or at least limited them to a great degree, what I learned is I started doing live streaming, because that was a way for people to still be engaged, to watch what's going on, to keep our courts open and operating during a time of uncertainty. People were very interested. The court system and the legal system is critiqued and criticized all the time for not being transparent. So by having cameras in the courtroom, when there is that interest, I believe it fosters transparency.
Yes, sorry to say, but Judge Gold, are you listening? Delphi trial, huh? Are you hear that, Judge Gold? We need to clip that and send it to Judge Gold. Oh my goodness.
It's not about sensationalizing this. I did a very, very extensive trial order on that to make sure that didn't happen. You're not wrong that there's an interest and that people do different things with that interest. We are seeing trials televised more and more. People are fascinated with the legal system. I had a request and I granted it. Nothing more, nothing less. But some of my rules and requirements were meant to make sure that nonetheless things were fair and impartial. Fair and impartial doesn't mean you're going to agree with everything that I do. Fair and impartial doesn't mean you're going to agree with how a jury decides this case, how it's investigated, how it's presented. There's a lot of law on evidence. There's a lot of case law, volumes of it, on what comes in, what doesn't come in. Some of those rules impacted evidence coming into this case. Other things are beyond my control, whether the state chooses to offer something or not, or whether your own attorneys choose to offer something or not.
In the corner is a picture of the victim, Lynn Hernan. If you don't know anything about this case, Jessy Kurczewski poisoned her friend with eye drops, Visine. Oh my goodness. And then stole all her money as well, made her sickly, stole her money, and then Lynn Hernan died. So if you want to know the whole timeline, the deep dive, the whole presentation, it is all there. We did a trial prep. We watched this entire trial together. This is just a very delayed sentencing because of her tricks. Okay, and now her time is up. I can't wait. This is so nice. Thank you for being here to watch this together, all of us here.
But a courtroom isn't a free-for-all either. I do my very best to ensure that relevant evidence comes into the courtroom and reliable evidence. So I sat through this case, 16 days of trial from beginning to end, not including sentencing and any of the things that happened following the conviction. 36 witnesses. We had 4 expert witnesses, 2 pathologists, a pharmacologist, and then a toxicologist. And they heard a lot about tetrahydrozoline. What I learned about tetrahydrozoline is how it affects the human body. I had the criminal complaint, obviously, all throughout this case, but until a case goes through the trial process, I don't really know what all is going to come in. I have a good idea, but I didn't know the breadth or the depth of it. I didn't know, other than filings, for example, with the medical examiner and the Daubert motions, that's the first time I really got a lot of that information with substance. And a lot of times I don't even have that information until there's a trial. But what did I learn? What is tetrahydrozoline? I think at its simplest, it's a sedative, right? It's a substance that when used as approved for eye drops or nasal spray, it constricts, right? So it helps people breathe who have nasal congestion, and it helps with redness in the eyes. It is not approved for oral use. What do we know from the literature that's out there that predates this case? Some of it obviously coming in around or even after, is that there's really only 2 types of ingestions that are seen in the literature: accidental or malicious. No known literature about people dying from voluntarily ingesting it for a suicide. Why is that? Because that's a big question that I think needs to be answered. And that's because I think it's the last way.
Of course, Kurczewski's got an answer for everything. She's already there, thinking up the next answer.
Anyone, whatever, commit suicide because of how it affects the human body. It makes people sick. You weren't the first person to think about tetrahydrozoline. There have been movies and even Law and Order episodes, or an episode that I happened to see at one point, where there's some poisoning. We know from Henry Spiller, your own witness, he encouraged the FBI to look into it or get it on a list because of its use related to sexual assaults, that malicious ingestion, right, a poisoning. But like I said, at its core, it's a sedative. And how does it affect the system? During Dr.
She wants to whisper to her attorney. Is it attorney number 8, I think it is? I'm putting the handcuffs there. Just cuff her. Cuff her, Judge. It's time to cuff the lady.
No, I think it was Ms. Kasinko's testimony. She talked about how when ingested, and obviously unknowingly, right? It's odorless, it's tasteless. You can give it to someone without them ever knowing it. It can reduce inhibitions. It creates, causes someone to be lethargic. It has a significant impact when in large amounts that shouldn't be in one's system it's a CNS depressant, right? So ultimately it affects breathing and heart rate and brain functioning and can lead to death. After listening and seeing and reading through all the evidence, just like the jury did, and I don't know what they ultimately or why they ultimately concluded it's a homicide. They don't have to explain their verdict. They just render a verdict, all having to agree. But as I saw everything, I have to ask out loud. It's a rhetorical question, but were you poisoning Lynn Hernan all along, following your release from prison?
No.
I'm not asking for an answer. This is my time. So do not interrupt me.
Ooh, I love it.
She got
Judge.
markedly sicker following your reinsertion in her life on a daily basis, ultimately ending up in the hospital in September of 2018. Unexplained. Couldn't figure out what was going on. But what do we know? She got better. What could not have been happening in the hospital? Someone poisoning her with THC. Too much risk associated with that. Cameras, whatever it may be. And I think that gave you the green light. You said I went undetected, because what I think was happening is that you were using it to control Lynn Hernan, to steal from her, to gain control of her accounts. I think you targeted her. I agree with the state's assessment on that. The
She's
perfect
smiling.
victim. No children, no parents. They were deceased with a fair amount of money. Why do I say that? Well, your past matters. Your past convictions for forgery, uttering, and misappropriation of personal identifying information matter. Because I'm a big proponent and believer that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. That's not to say people can't change. But we know you targeted people. And from my perspective, in a very aggravated way, because it's real easy to say, well, those convictions happened in 2011 and this didn't happen until 2018. But you were revoked once following being in prison for about a year. It was 1 year of initial confinement, 3 years of extended supervision on each of those counts. You get revoked so you're sentenced in 2011, you're released in 2012, you're revoked in 2014, you go back to prison, I think it was about 26 months or so. You're released again in February, late February of 2018. And it's shortly thereafter that these thefts start happening. And it's shortly thereafter that Lynn Hernan gets sicker and sicker. Now, I'm not sentencing you here today because I think you poisoned her all along. I'm sentencing you because a jury convicted you of a homicide based upon that. But I think it's important for everyone in this courtroom to know that's what I see. And that's what the evidence points to. Very planned, very deceitful. Maybe it wasn't your intent to kill Lynn Hernan. I don't know. Do I believe this was a suicide? Absolutely not. There's a lot of holes in the stories that you have told. I think you think you're smarter than everyone in this courtroom. All of your statements come after you get information that you now have to explain.
And remember, this judge has already dealt with Darrell Brooks, who defended himself. This judge has more patience than many judges, than probably any judge that I've ever seen. So she's like, you think you're smarter than everyone else in the room, huh? She's well trained from that Darrell Brooks.
Those letters, no way Lynn Hernan wrote those either herself or willingly. Or willingly. And I think that's supported by the thefts in this case. It's supported when you understand how tetrahydrozoline affects individuals. And that why do people choose it to assault someone? Because it can impair them. It can make them lethargic. It can make them lose their own inhibitions. It really, in those circumstances, with that malicious intent, is to control someone. And I think the evidence points pretty squarely to that.
I don't know if I've seen defendants like this. I guess Darrell Brooks. We're going to see Sarah Boone, hopefully in May. It's those types. It's like Jessy Kurczewski really does think she's the smartest in every room she's in. And now she's like, oh, okay, yeah, right. She's just ready to appeal. You could see it. She's gonna. But I mean, she has no self-awareness and just cannot accept what she did.
I'm going to go through every single piece of evidence. I'm not going to go through every single witness. But it's important to really set the stage, so to speak, for why I believe not why I believe, but for how I'm going to sentence you here today. And really to respond to some of the things that you, your mom, and others have said on your behalf. You know, it is one thing to maintain your innocence. I support the jury system. I support people making the state prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what makes this system that we have in the United States so great. I'm not here to tell you it's perfect every step along the way. We're a system filled with human beings. But I don't see this as one of those cases where it's just an all-out, let's get Jessy Kurczewski. There's no reason for anyone here to make anything up. You are the common denominator that brings all of us here today. It is your actions, not theirs, and it's not Lynn's. I find it interesting that you criticize people like Anthony Pozza, Corrine Pozza, Jim Kelliher, and others for not knowing Lynn, for not getting her help, for, you criticize them for saying, well, she wasn't suicidal, they didn't know her, they weren't close to her in the last year of her life. But ironically, you want us to believe all the statements that you've made, and yet you'll back off and say, but I wish I could have done more. I wish I would have seen more. I have these regrets because I didn't get her more help. I don't think you can hold those beliefs together. I think they're opposed to each other. I think it's a convenient position to take when you criticize them, and yet you can't go so far as to say, well, I saw it all. You have to stop short of that. Otherwise, you couldn't claim that you didn't know she was suicidal. And of course, we know that story changed over time. You are I think, very upset over this thing about Whitnall Park. Here's the thing. You were in custody, okay? I don't know if it's very, very rare for police to take someone out of custody. But what they did was pretty amazing. They got you on what we'd call a FaceTime call, some type of video, from their conference room at the jail to direct individuals. You want us to believe this evidence that exonerates you exists, and yet you had what? October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, up to July 8th, at any point in time, to go get it, if it really existed. You had all the opportunity in the world to make sure, if that evidence existed, to secure it in a way that was accessible, not in the ground, at a park. Doesn't make sense.
Yes, I hope she looks at that face in the mirror every day for the rest of her life. A plastic mirror. In prison.
Same thing really with the letters that happened to show up after Lynn died. When were those turned over? Again, rhetorical question. I even listened to how you talk about the will and the wills and how this whole test thing with Anthony. Here's the thing. The initial will that was submitted to Judge Maxwell was typewritten and witnessed by strangers at a bank. You want us to believe that Lynn Hernan changed her will and didn't follow the same procedure that she did for the will that was initially admitted into probate and what stood. By the way, a will can't be witnessed by the beneficiaries. Would never have worked. If she were that suicidal and making all of these plans to kill herself and change her will, Lynn Hernan was smart enough to know how to do it the right way, if in fact she was the one to do it. You have someone draft it, and you have neutral witnesses, like she did the first time. You go to a bank, you get it notarized. That's not what she did. There are a lot of holes in your version of events. And here's the thing. I didn't get the ability, nor did the jury, to have your story tested for its veracity. You have the absolute right at a trial not to testify, and there are pros and cons to doing so. You claim to regret not testifying, but the jury didn't get to hear that. That was your choice. That's not on me. That's not on the state. That's on you. The other thing I want to comment on, you want us to believe that you and your mom were so close to Lynn Hernan, that you loved her and cared for her more than anybody else. And yet you unabashedly throw her under the bus and impugn her character with these wild stories. You want us to believe that she killed herself because she killed her mom in the same way that she was killed.
Literally. If you guys don't know about this case, I hope you'll watch the replays of the trial, because the victim blaming They came not just from Jessy Kurczewski, but her attorneys that were assigned for the trial. I can't even say original attorneys because she had others and then those, and now she's had another 20 million attorneys. So those ones. The victim blaming in this case was terrible. Not only did Jessy Kurczewski and her defense team during the trial say that Lynn took her own life in the way that she did by just drinking Visine, and she loved vodka, and so she therefore just loved to put Visine in. It was almost like a little hobby of hers. Like, yeah, right. But also, Jessy went as far as saying that Lynn murdered her own mother in the same way. I mean, you've just never seen victim blaming like this before. It was so heartbreaking. So I'm so glad that the judge is absolutely grilling Kurczewski. Not that I think it's really going through. Do you think it's going through? I don't think Jessy has any capacity to accept what she's done.
And again, poisoning oneself with Visine drops would be the last way someone would commit suicide. It does not. There's no known literature support for tetrahydrozoline causing a state of euphoria and pain relief and sleep. I should rephrase that last one. Making someone fall asleep. I suppose it could because of the effects as a CNS depressant, but the other effects on the digestive system and making one sick, again, no way. I think that's probably why a jury rejected, because perhaps they came to that same conclusion, that it just was not believable. Oh, the one other thing I wanted to comment on, because you referenced it as well, was the fact that you couldn't review the restitution information. It's a pretty standard order that I get. It's a request for an order from the state due to victim rights legislation and the constitutional amendment to seal restitution information. But the order that I signed says that parties to the case are permitted access. You're a party to the case. Whether your attorney chose to give it to you or not, I don't know. I want to refocus this, because what we're here today is really about giving voice to the one person who cannot speak today, and that's Lynn Hernan. It's about honoring her life and punishing you as the person found legally responsible for her death. She cannot respond to any of the accusations that you and your mom have levied against her. She's gone. And you've taken away from your own life, but for Anthony and Corrine and Jim and Keith and all the other individuals, a bright light, as Anthony said, extinguished far too soon. You took that away. You took away future memories, birthday parties, luncheons, phone calls. You may have been with Lynn that last year or so of her life. But what do killers sometimes do? They target their victims, they isolate them, they control the narrative, they stay or show up at scenes. I mean, the bottom line is, homicides generally don't make a lot of sense. It's the taking of another life intentionally. It defies all notions of goodness and decency. They don't make sense. And sometimes they're wild and crazy. And people like you do strange things.
People like you. Yes,
I
Jessy.
believe.
Did you hear it, Jessy? People like you. Dumb criminals. Yeah, dumb killers. Okay. So she's already busy now fiddling with her papers there. I'm sure she's ready to craft her next letter.
For the sole purpose of trying to get away with it. I do believe you thought you had found the perfect way to take Lynn Hernan out, that it would go undetected. And again, maybe that wasn't initially. Maybe it was just to control the finances, to take her for the money that she had. But I think when she got to the hospital in September, and no one at that hospital found that substance, and you were getting to the end of the money, and really the only thing left of value was that condo, Lynn Hernan was better to you dead than alive, and you thought you could get away with it. You know, when I sentence individuals, there's a number of sentencing criteria. They fall into three main categories: the seriousness of the offense, the need to protect the public, and your character and rehabilitative needs. Your character includes who you are sitting here before me, the good, the bad, the indifferent. It includes your past convictions. They are important, especially as it relates to counts 2 and 3, because there's a pattern in your life of taking advantage of people, whether it be your mom, your grandmother, whether it be patients in a clinic that you work at, or the mother of a friend you're living with. And you explain it away as, well, I had a gambling addiction. I just wanted to live. I needed a place, a roof over my head, however you described it in those moments. I think you thought you were a very good thief and that you could get away with even more. The seriousness of those theft convictions, well, let me go back. So I don't want you to walk out of here thinking, I don't think you have any redeeming qualities. I mean, obviously, while in the jail, I think you've tried to do what you can to make the most of unfortunate circumstances at your own hand. You obviously very diligently review all of the discovery materials. You do what you can to do your own research, to educate yourself. You help other inmates. I think you are blessed to have maybe some additional money coming in on your canteen, and you will help individuals who don't have any. I don't even frankly care what the motives are, whether they're purely good motives or if there's a pecking order back there. I don't know, but I do know you made a friend, and she said some very nice things about you today. Honestly, the only person. I was really hoping to hear more from your mom about you. I have a lot in the PSI and the private PSI about that, but your mom spent every moment of her statement attacking everyone else in this courtroom and Lynn. Whereas Ms. McCarthy came.
And if you're thinking, but we didn't watch that together yet, we just started with the sentencing today, then we're gonna go back and watch the victim impact statements and then power through Jessy Kurczewski's long monologue.
Came in is what we hope for and expect of character witnesses to tell me more about this other side. Because I do believe people are multifaceted. People have many sides. Even in the worst cases, like a homicide, there are redeeming qualities. And she told us about those, and I thank her for doing that. About how you took her under your wing, you kind of developed this relationship, you had lunch together, meals together, prayed together, did some studies together, and you helped her through a very trying time, as she said, being 70 and never incarcerated before. I'm sure that was not easy. And so I think there is a side to you that does care. I don't want you to think that I don't think you have a caring side. I mean, clearly you do. You cared for Scott Craig, you cared for his children, and in your own way, you made them feel important and loved. Now, there was another side to you, and I think he got it right, when he described you. I mean, I think there was a reason you never introduced him to Lynn Hernan.
Oh, she produced a tear, everyone, because, she's so amazing. She got a compliment. Time to cry.
I find that interesting. She clearly, if I were to believe the letters were written by Lynn, she wanted to meet him, but yet she never did. I don't think you wanted there to be any possibility of questions. And that's why I think, however you did it, you were able to keep Lynn isolated so that other people wouldn't question and perhaps uncover what was happening with the thefts. I know that you still have the strong support of your mother. I question at times whether that's healthy or not. If she's seeing things clearly, I think she's, one of the few individuals who has, really bought the story, lock, stock, and barrel, that you have spun. I think as a mom, we want to always see the good in our children and don't want to believe the worst, and it's really challenging and difficult to believe that your own child is capable of a homicide. It's either that or she's complicit, and she knew, and she was involved. I don't know. The seriousness of these offenses are significant. As a homicide, there's a loss of life. It is intentional. You are convicted of intentional homicide, not, for example, what some people might call manslaughter or even assisted suicide. And I know you probably don't agree with the decision that I made on that either, and that's okay. The law just did not support it. But here there was an intentional poisoning with a very specific intent for it to go undetected over time to cover up your thefts. It's aggravated in the sense this was a planned series of events. This was not, a crime of passion, for example. You have a relatively minor record, even though there's 4 felonies. You don't have anything other than that. You didn't have issues as a juvenile. But there were thousands and thousands of dollars that were stolen by you before Lynn Hernan was killed and after. And it's all really related in terms of the seriousness, because you really don't have one without the other, because I do think the homicide was related and the motive was to cover things up. It was to...
I'm just going to pause for a second. You might think, because I'm thinking, damn, I've never seen a sentencing this long in my life from a judge. But you know what I like about it is that Jessy Kurczewski took the floor for what felt like forever. I could only lurk every now and then today, in preparation for this, of course, and I had something else that I was doing. But in what I saw, oh my word, every time I checked, she was going on and on for hours. So this is great, because now Jessy Kurczewski has to sit there and listen to the judge take the floor. That part I like. So yes, go on and on and on. Judge Dorow, go on, because I hope she has more time than Kurczewski, because that must be difficult for Jessy Kurczewski, right?
Not get caught, and to do it in a way that you thought you could do to get away with it. I talked about the scene a little bit, and I think there's some aggravated factors about that. The way that scene looked, Dr. B talked about her opinion. She testified that she thought it was staged, that she was concerned about it. It was not something she had seen, and You know, whether the body was moved or the tray was on her chest before or after, there were pieces that appeared to be pieces of pills strategically placed in the corners of Lynn Hernan's mouth. I think it's inescapable that they were placed there. None found in her mouth, but only in the corners. I somewhat agree with you that through the transport, through the EMS people being there, some of those things would have fallen on the floor, would have been scattered in other ways, and that's very possible. I just don't think that would be responsible for those pieces in the corners of her mouth. These were crimes over a significant period of time. These were crimes that required planning, preparation. Once Lynn Hernan was killed, the amount of deceit and deception really accelerated. We have these letters. Even if I take those off the table for a minute, we have everything that was done in that probate case. The false invoices, the loan against the inheritance, and then using the estate funds to pay back. I mean, those were things that, from my perspective, were pretty easily proven. That paper trail, that was dismantled pretty quickly. And then we get to the point in time where police now, law enforcement are now zeroing in on you. We know in about March, when you met with Detective Cole and Detective Hoppy, that, and that really only happens after you make some phone calls and you're told the ME's office, they're not going to talk to you anymore. However, that kind of worked itself out, but we know they reached out to you because you called. There's a recording of your call seeking information from them. And that's kind of I think a pivotal point, because I think for you, you knew something was going on. They didn't tell you at that point. They don't tell you until July about the THZ. But that would have been a really good time if you had evidence that Lynn Hernan committed suicide, that you raise it, that you bring it forward. Or that if it did exist, you get it out of Whitnall Park, you put it in a safe deposit box, you put it in a storage, you put it someplace other than a park. If it...
She's just like, wait, what? Remember, Judge Dorow booked the entire day for this. And I'm like, the whole day. Like normally in cases when we watch sentencing, you know, it could be a half day or a morning. This was the whole day booked, and I'm like, whoa, that's going to be long. I wonder why. What are the lawyers going to argue? What's going to happen? No. It's for Judge Dorow to absolutely roast her ass. To tell her exactly where she went wrong. Which is just so great. To point out all her mistakes, because there you could see she doesn't have that little smile. She's starting to look very angry, actually, here, right?
Truly existed.
Love it.
There were so many opportunities for that to be brought to police. And yet, and this is where your character comes into play, you want to turn the tables on law enforcement and say, you didn't do enough. You should have taken me out of custody. I should have had those 2 weeks to go search to find it myself. You didn't even have as much of a photograph on your cell phone to say, here's where it is. I kept a document, I kept a record of it just in case. Nothing. See, all things that I think, if this were legitimate, someone would have done or had. So fast forward to July of 2019. 6 different interviews, 6 different versions of events, and not one really making a whole lot of sense. You yourself admit, I lied. You should not be shocked, Ms. Kurczewski, that people don't believe the stories that you tell. They don't add up.
Why would she? Why does Jessy Kurczewski think that her stories are believable? That's what's just like, what do you really think? And she really did give 6 different stories to the police. She just went on and on. You've never seen anyone talk so much. Oh my goodness. Without asking for an attorney, just going back and another story, another one. And just like, it was so crazy. If you didn't see that, it's all timestamped for you. It's all on the playlist.
They don't make sense. They fly in the face of logic. They are far too convenient and most often have extra detail added after you're given information from law enforcement. As if you went back to your cell, how can I explain this away? And I think you rely far too much on your intelligence and your ability to think on your feet, thinking you can outsmart law enforcement. And the thing is, they're going to look at everything. They're going to uncover everything that they can.
The way so frustrating. She's like, no, this is unbelievable. Just can't believe this nonsense. This judge is just not getting it. The whole world is wrong, okay? The jury's wrong. The judge is wrong. We're all wrong. Yeah, Jessy, you know better, right? You know the truth of that crap that she made up. Which one is it? Which version of events is it going to be?
You want everyone in this courtroom to believe you should not have been convicted because law enforcement didn't look into the death of Lynn's mom. They didn't need to. They had enough evidence. The evidence was clear. It pointed directly to you. But you had an opportunity, I think many times, to accept responsibility, to just admit. And I don't think you're able to do that.
Me neither. I don't think she can do
You're
it.
going to stand firm on this was a suicide, and no one will convince you otherwise. But you know what you did. You know you're the one that took Lynn Hernan from this earth. You know you're responsible because your own words say that to me. I knew she was drinking Visine. I helped her. I was filling up the bottles. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not going to get it exactly right. But your story morphed to the point you admitted you knew Lynn Hernan was suicidal, that at one point she put a gun to her head, and that she had been drinking Visine for months. If that were true, and you loved this woman with your heart and soul and cared about her well-being, I believe Lynn Hernan would still be here because you would have gotten her help. You would have told her other friends and family that you may not have had a lot of contact with since you got out of prison or even ever, but you certainly knew about them. You had access to Lynn's phone. You would have reached out to everyone and anyone and said, this woman needs help. She's suicidal. But that's not what you did at all.
The denial in this one is very strong. She really believes her own lies.
I know you think that I came into this courtroom today having made up my mind on what to do in your case. I'm going to tell you I didn't. I would go back and forth. Should I give her life without the possibility of extended supervision? Should I give her this eligibility at some point in time? I made myself a sheet, and I had blanks for those things. Now, I knew what I wanted to do on the theft charges. I'll give you that, because those are pretty simple. They're 10-year felonies. The max is 5 years each, 5 initial confinement, 5 ES. And really the issue was, should they be consecutive or concurrent? And I'd go back and forth. I'd talk to my clerk. I'd say, I'm kind of struggling here. I want to find a reason. I listened to the state here today. They're pretty darn compelling as to why there's no redeeming qualities. And Attorney Jones said something really interesting during his sentencing remarks. You know, for everyone in this courtroom, the defendant, the defendant's family, to Mr. Pozza, to his family, to all of Lynn's friends, even the detectives maybe, but probably less for them. This is the most important case. That's why you get people like Jim Kelliher saying, I want life without the possibility of parole, and you get a request for leniency from those on your side. That's very typical. But what he said, what Attorney Jones said, and what he talked about is, we look at the system of justice. We have to look at the degrees of homicides. To look at the cases really based on my experience, right, in other homicide cases, what's come through this county, and just generally kind of what we know in the justice system.
Welcome, everyone that's only joining now. I see there's a lot of people that just joined us, so welcome. We started watching the sentencing first, and then we're going to go back and watch all the victim impact statements, and then I can't promise we're going to watch all of Jessy Kurczewski's crap, but we'll try, okay, because she spoke for like 2 hours or something. So let's see the sentencing go.
That really kind of stuck with me. And he said to strip the defendant of any eligibility would be too harsh in this case. I'm paraphrasing. And that we should trust the system because it's not an automatic. All it is an eligibility. That made me think. I know you're roughly 40 years of age. I thought about making you eligible at 62 years, meaning 62 years of initial confinement. I thought, well, at 40, I don't know that, I would put her into triple digits. And I thought about what others have said in terms of, you're less of a risk when you get older, especially if you're in your 70s, 80s, whatever. And I don't want to, unduly depreciate the seriousness of you taking the life of another person. And even though I think you're completely diabolical, and I think this was planned, and I think you have evil in your heart, when I look at what else I've seen through my tenure, when I think of the system as a whole, I think this is one of those cases that it would not unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense to make you eligible for extended supervision at some point. So then the question becomes, at what point? I think for me, it's important to think about how old Lynn was when her life was cut short, and she was 62.
Yeah, 62.
Under the statute, the earliest I could consider eligibility is 20 years. Now, this is not what I would call minimums eligibility case. You have a prior record for 4 felonies. You've been to prison previously. You've been revoked twice while on extended supervision. You have issues with conforming your conduct to the rules and expectations that are placed upon you by the justice system. However, it's your first violent offense. You don't have a history of harming people, physically, assault behavior, certainly not a prior homicide, not even like an OWI homicide or anything. You just have that prior OWI first. Knowing that I believe consecutive sentences for those thefts are important, and I'll get to the reasoning why. On the first-degree intentional homicide charge, count 1, I'm going to impose a life sentence with the possibility of extended supervision after 30 years. That would make you, without the theft charges, close to 70 years of age, older than what Lynn would be today. Physically older, I think 30 years is a pretty significant amount of time. But my target is really 80 for you. That is why on counts 2 and 3, you're going to serve maximum sentences consecutive to count 1 and consecutive to each other. Because I think to do anything other than that, given your prior forgery and misappropriation, felony convictions, and your lack of a good track record while on extended supervision, would be to unduly depreciate the seriousness of those offenses. But I really looked at this, and my goal here was to kind of hit that target, and that's how I structured it. And that target being to make you eligible closer to a point in time when you are 80 years of age. I think the criteria that I have when I think about not just the seriousness of the offense, but the need to protect the public, that's one of the key factors here as well. You've demonstrated that not only for family members and people that you love, but other strangers, like your prior record shows with the patients from the clinic at which you worked and the mom of the person you lived with, there's really not anyone who's safe from you when it comes to your willingness to steal, to defraud. You'll craft fake documents, you'll try to cover up your tracks, you'll justify it, and then you'll blame others in the process when you get caught. But there's other things I need to go through in terms of the sentencing. In terms of conditions for extended supervisions and conditions of your sentence. Obviously, there's some things I need to go through the statute, but I'll go through them. You have to provide a DNA sample. If you've not previously done so, there's DNA surcharges on all 3 counts, $250 each. There's payment of court costs for each count. I am going to order costs pursuant to 973.06 sub 1 sub B in the amount of $16,728.74 payable to the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office for the expert witness who testified in this case. I'll go through restitution more specifically in a moment, and I realize it will be subject to a request for a hearing if made at the end of this hearing. But I do believe...
So far, the judge said life in prison, which will be in a Waukesha County, somewhere in Waukesha County prison, right? And extended supervision after 30 years. So it's not LWOP, okay? It's not life without parole. Life and a life sentence, and all the charges will be consecutive. We're still going to listen to it. I'm just trying to hear exactly what's the maximum. How old will she be when she's eligible for parole? 80? Hope so. She's 39 now.
restitution as set forth in the memorandum and affidavit submitted by, I take that back, I don't think it was signed as an affidavit, but there's a memorandum and supporting documentation from attorney Beth Taylor detailing $386,646.01 is appropriate for all of the reasons that are expressed in that memorandum. I'll frankly take judicial notice. She'll be incarcerated for quite a period of time and will not be employed. I don't think that's disputed, but I also believe it's appropriate for this court to set up an escrow account under 949.165.
I'm so sorry to pause it now. I just want to read this very important message here. Amy Short is a family member of the victim. Thank you for being here with us. And you said thank you so much for creating this wonderful community where families can come and feel safe. I mean, that is the goal. I'm so glad that you feel safe here with us. And you said my family and I are beyond grateful for you and your wonderful coverage. Thank you so much. And yes, we've got your back. And we are here to see full justice for Lynn Hernan.
5. It is the express intent of this court to limit, if not make impossible, the ability of the defendant to profit in any way from the crimes she has been convicted of in this case, and to use monies received as a result of the commission of these crimes, whether past, present, or future, to pay restitution as ordered herein, and to compensate the victims. In other words, this court is relying upon Wisconsin's state statute section 949.165 to order the establishment of an escrow account as a legal means to ensure the victims are compensated from the fruits of these serious crimes. The court finds an order for an escrow account is appropriate under the statute for payment of restitution, as well as court costs, fees, and surcharges, and for costs associated with prior or future legal representation, etc., under the statute. That's not an exhaustive list. The statute's pretty clear on what is may be paid. There is no doubt in the court's mind that homicide and felony theft are serious crimes under sub 1 in 949.165, and that the estate of Lynn Hernan, represented by the personal representative Anthony Pozza, are victims under 950.02 sub 4. Not only is restitution to be paid as any condition of her sentence and extended supervision, but it's to be paid before costs or fines. And these financial obligations shall be collected pursuant to state statute and as provided with that escrow account that I'm setting up as well. She's to have absolutely no contact with Anthony Pozza or any family members of his. She's to not gamble or have any contact at any casino. She's not to possess another person's personal identifying information, including but not limited to a driver's license, social security number or card, credit card or number, etc. She is to have no employment or service as a caregiver, whether paid or unpaid. She's to complete all other programming as deemed appropriate by the Department of Corrections. Within 48 hours of this hearing, she is to notify her attorney, meaning Attorney Jones, of the location of Lynn Herman's remains. And within 48 hours of that notification, those remains are to be turned over to the state of Wisconsin via their victim witness, who shall then turn them over to Anthony Pozza. Just want to look through my notes, make sure I didn't overlook anything I wanted to address here today. I wanted to say this as well to,
Judge, I can provide that location now if the court wants.
please do so on the record.
Yes, my client's indicated that her mother's in possession of those remains.
Do we know if Jennifer Flowers in the hallway? We'll check if she is.
Why did Jessy Kurczewski and her mother keep Lynn's ashes? They stole everything from Lynn's family and friends. What? My
She's
goodness.
to be brought in. I want to order her to turn them over. If the state would like a written order, please submit one, and I'll order that Jennifer Flower, who's in possession of the remains of Lynn Hernan, turn those over to the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office. Would you be willing to serve that upon her, Attorney Nicolai, within 48 hours of being served with the court order? All right, thank you. I wanted to...
Why is Jessy smiling and hiding her lips now, What you hiding there, Are they even Lynn's ashes? Because by her body language, I'm worried about that. What if it's the cat's ashes or something? Oh no. I really hope that they hand it over as instructed.
say a couple of acknowledgments to Mr. Pozza, his mom, and the rest of Lynn's friends. And I know that at times this has been frustrating. I appreciate the sentiment here earlier today, but I hope I did my best to bring this case to a conclusion, and that through this case, this trial, and today, that you can finally have some closure and begin healing. I know that it's frustrating. It's frustrating for a lot of people, whether it be a defendant or a victim, to go through a court process. It doesn't always go as quickly, and as one thing I will...
That is Anthony Pozza, who was a really great friend of Lynn Hernan's, and who Jessy also stole from, because he was supposed to get some of the money that Lynn had allocated to him from her actual will before Jessy changed her will, and it's like, nope, everything's for me. The condo and everything. All the stuff in it. She had a yard sale. Remember that?
Agree with the defendant is that it is going through a court case and a trial is nothing like what you see portrayed in a dramatization. I often tell juries that you cannot try a case and get a verdict in an hour. That's drama. And the rules of evidence oftentimes prevent certain things from coming in that one party or the other might want in. And the flip side of that is sometimes it allows for questioning that may seem intrusive and violative. And I appreciate everyone's patience as we went through this process. You know, I would remind everyone, I mean, the case was filed in 2021. There needed to be a preliminary hearing. That was ultimately, once we got through the arraignment process and the case came before me, we had a trial scheduled in relatively short order for February of 2023. And then there was a request by the defense for an adjournment. And with reluctance, I granted that. And originally we had parts of 6 weeks needed to be scheduled depending on how we started and whatnot. And you can't just find 5 weeks, 6 weeks on anyone's schedule without going out a significant amount of time. And, you know, we don't have attorneys Kukler and Galaviz here, but, you know, from my perspective, everyone worked really diligently to find a time that worked, where we could put this case forward. We had certainly a jury pool who are silent other than the written verdicts that they signed, and I hope in some respects I've given voice and recognition of the guilty verdicts that they pronounced in this case. I found my note that I wanted to reference earlier, and I know I've pronounced sentence, but when I talk about THZ and what it does to a person and why I believe in the series of events that I've described and how it was utilized in this case and why I believe there's, evidence to support it being used for quite some time, is that it impairs memory, it impairs judgment, it impairs inhibitions. It's a substance not routinely screened for, and certainly not in 2018. It's widely available over the counter. It's not a recreational drug. It's used, as I indicated, either maliciously or as intended, or it's ingested accidentally. That as a CNS depressant, it can cause depression, drowsiness, hypothermia.
I think we've got about 10 minutes left of this sentencing. Then what we're going to do is switch over to the press conference that I see is going to happen soon. So we'll watch the sentencing, the press conference, and then they're going to start now. Okay, then we're going to come back to the victim impact statements.
Which is low body temp, brachycardia, which is slow heart rate, hypotension, apnea, which is the temporary cessation in breathing, and coma. I didn't say this previously, but I had written a note to myself. I think it was referenced either by the state or by perhaps one of the individuals who made a statement, but I think it was Attorney Sitzberger. Lynn Hernan was left to die on her own. What I wrote is this, that she was dosed and the defendant left her to die alone. Why leave? If not a homicide, you needed a window of opportunity to claim Lynn Hernan committed suicide.
Jessy's face, oh my goodness.
I just want to make a further record that while I didn't reference it with specificity in my sentencing remarks, I obviously had referenced kind of generally the PSI, the private PSI, certainly relied upon those in getting background information for Ms. Kurczewski. My reference to the 20 years was obviously to the private PSI as well. The state's PSI did not make any specific recommendation on the homicide other than noting it's life, that's mandatory life under the statute, and then made a recommendation that I deviated from, or at least did not agree with, as to counts 2 and 3. I do want to state with some specificity the restitution that I ordered. I gave the total amount, but it's broken down as follows. For funeral expenses, $3,707.48. For the personal representative's fee, $2,947. For the cash withdrawals and checks from the estate checking account, $54,689.53. For payment from the estate to inheritance funding, $14,000. The payment from Croak, Gonzalez, Eckerly, and Martinson in the amount of $4,700. Additional fraudulent estate expenses as detailed in the memorandum by Attorney Taylor, totaling $42,425.14. Attorney's fees incurred by the state. This includes actual attorney's fees that have been incurred and an estimate of future attorney's fees, which I find to be reasonable under the circumstances, of $18,149. I agree with the reasoning in this memorandum that this is not this is different from normal attorney's fees. These are fees that would not have been incurred but for the fraudulent activity related to the probate case of the defendant or by the defendant. Mr. Pozza, as the personal representative and victim under the statute, he may seek and has sought compensation for time away from work totaling $1,680. And there's additional payments to the defendant from the BMO Harris account totaling $244,347.86 for that total of $386,646 and a penny. I'll find that this total amount of restitution has been established by clear and convincing evidence based upon the trial exhibits and testimony and as set forth in the attached supporting documentation in document number 616 filed with this court. Now, I indicated earlier, Attorney Jones, that I would certainly, if requested, schedule it further for a restitution hearing. I don't know if you're in a position to tell me that today, but I'd certainly give you some time if you want.
My question to the court would be if the court's considered, and I'm sure you have, I just didn't hear it on the record, the factors under 973.20 sub 1313, the ones I set forth in my letter.
Yes, I think I might have only referenced her ability to pay. I took judicial notice of the fact that I've given her a life sentence with the eligibility for parole or extended supervision after 30 years with the consecutive sentences. That's obviously, 40 years after that. Let me just find that letter, and I will add to that if I feel appropriate.
I guess my point, Judge, while you're looking, is if you've considered those factors, which, like I indicated, I'm sure you have, I think that would be the sub and substance of the argument I would be able to offer at a restitution
5 minutes and we're switching to the press conference. Then we're going to come back to the victim impact statements, okay?
hearing. So if they've been considered, I don't think that there's more to argue.
I will speak more on part 3. I obviously ordered that escrow account, and what I believe is a very real possibility when you look at the present and future earning ability of the defendant. I'm certainly aware that organizations such as Law and Crime, Court TV, 48 Hours, I believe also AARP, all intend or have expressed interest in the records or writing articles or other things. I believe there's a very real likelihood or possibility.
Oh, okay, I see that they're going to approach Kurczewski. Yeah, okay.
For there to be potential income flowing to Ms. Kurczewski as it relates to her story. That's why I ordered the escrow account. And so I considered that. Obviously, she has no dependents, so that I don't need to consider sub 4. I've obviously considered the total loss suffered by any victim. I've gone through that. I'm well aware she really has no financial resources at this time, but I do believe there's the very real potential based upon the public and media interest in this case. I also take into consideration that even with such a significant amount of restitution ordered and the way the statute reads about the payment of costs and restitution from prison monies, there's a cap on that. And it's not something I would deviate from in this case. I think it's appropriate. So I've considered that as well.
Then I'm not requesting an additional hearing.
All right. Anything else from you at this time, and then I'll turn to the state?
No, Your Honor.
I know I have a few warnings to get through and all of that, but before I get through that, is there anything the state has?
Your Honor, we are in the process of filing that order for the production of Lynn Hernan's remains, and then we'll obviously keep the court informed of when that's served on Ms. Flower.
All right. All right, Ms. Kurczewski, you have been convicted of 3 felonies. That means you may not vote in any election until your civil rights have been restored. You may not possess a firearm. That is a felony punishable by a fine of up to $25,000 and imprisonment of up to 10 years. You may also not possess body armor. And for a first offense, that would have a potential fine of $50,000 and imprisonment of up to 15 years, and for any second or subsequent offense, a $100,000 fine and a 25-year period of imprisonment. You also have 20 days from today's date to appeal the decision of the court. Good luck. That does conclude the hearing today. Please follow the direction of the bailiffs in terms of exiting from the courtroom.
Yeah, good luck.
And I'll look for that order, make sure Attorney Jones sees it first. Thank you, everyone.
Cuff her. There you go, cuff her, sir. Yes. Look at her, look at her. She's being carried out by that chain around her waist. She's got cuffs on already. Get her ass out of there. Goodbye, Jessy Kurczewski. So 30 plus 5 plus 5. Life. Okay. 30 plus 5 plus 5. Sorry, that I said fast. So 40 years. Okay, so she's 39 now. Well, let's not go over here. I'm like 39. No. She's 39 now. So when she's 79, maybe she'll be eligible for parole. Maybe she'll never get out. That'll be nice. She doesn't deserve to, in my opinion.
Give me the figures again. I have 16, 7, 28.
74.
74.
Okay, so off she goes. Quick recap here. They said Jessy Kurczewski was sentenced to life in prison in a Waukesha County courtroom Friday. Kurczewski will qualify for extended supervision after 30 years in prison, and they've already defined those terms. Kurczewski, 39, was accused of killing Lynn Hernan, 62, 5 years ago by poisoning her with eye drops. A jury found her guilty in November of last year. That's how long we've been waiting for the sentencing, okay? Prosecutors said Kurczewski was Hernan's caregiver, okay, and one of only 2 people named in Hernan's will. They say Kurczewski's crime was motivated by greed and that she defrauded Hernan out of more than $200,000. So that's what we have so far. Now we're going to switch to a live press conference, which normally happens after sentencing, so I'm happy to see it is happening. So let me fetch that for us. Hold on one second, and then we're going to go back to victim impact statements. Whether or not we're going to make it through Kurczewski's 3-hour cuck, I don't know. If you don't know what cuck means, I hope people in the chat will tell you. So let me fetch that. Okay, hold on one second. Here we go, and we want to boost it. Put the sound on. No. Boost it first. Thank you. Here we go. Okay, fetching the press conference. I think they did amazing. I think the prosecution, the state, they did such a great job. Finally, Kurczewski has been sentenced. She's exhausting. Oh my word. Okay.
I'll move out of the way. All right, thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. I'm Hillary Mintz, the Waukesha County Public Information Officer. You're going to be hearing from Deputy District Attorney Abby Nicolai, Assistant District Attorney Randy Sitzberger, and Anthony Pozza, a family friend of Lynn Hernan. They're going to read a statement, and then we'll take some questions. So with that, I'd like to introduce Randy.
Thank you, Hillary. Good afternoon, everybody. It's been more than 5 years since the tragic murder of Lynn Hernan, and we stand before you today finally being able to say that justice has been served in the sentencing of Jessy Kurczewski. This woman callously took the life of her friend, poisoning Lynn in pursuit of greed and her own financial interests. The court's decision today to impose a life sentence with the possibility after 40 years of parole reflects the severity of this crime and sends a clear message to the community and our society that the intentional act of taking someone's life will not be tolerated. This case, no doubt, had many twists and turns. You all know the trial lasted for several weeks, resulting in the men and women of the jury delivering guilty verdicts. However, it would be several more months before we could reach today's closure at sentencing. Through it all, our team at the District Attorney's Office, the outstanding work of the detectives from the Sheriff's Department, and I want to thank Anthony Pozza, his family, and the other loved ones of Lynn Hernan, have remained determined in bringing justice to Lynn. While today's sentencing marks a significant milestone in the case, the closure we've long been waiting for, we recognize that it cannot undo the harm that Ms. Kurczewski did by taking the life of Lynn. We are, however, hopeful that today's events may bring some measure of solace and closure to her actual loved ones. We will now take questions. Oh, and Anthony will give a statement too. I'm sorry, Anthony. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate my thanks to the County of Waukesha. These fine women and men right here have put in tons of hours of time to help my Auntie Lenny, and that means a lot to me and my family, and I couldn't be prouder to live in Waukesha, and I'm glad to see the justice system work out.
All right, we'll take some questions. Just raise your hand, or we can start.
If you could just talk about the delay and how hard that was for y'all.
when the
Just give me 1 second. I just want to actually boost it just a little bit more. Just hold on. Just going to fetch the boost there. Okay, let's try that. Okay, should be better now.
sentencing was supposed to happen and then didn't happen, and just how the wait for this to all go through and how hard that was.
Do you want to hear from a lawyer's perspective or the victim's family perspective?
Whoever would like to.
Up to you, Anthony.
I think it was tough when there's delays, especially with something like a murder. It really tears at your heartstrings a little bit and makes you lose hope a little bit. But I think through all this is a huge test of patience, and it's also kind of the checks and balances on how the justice system works. And I think through it all, through waiting and all the other trials and tribulations that me and my family have gone through, I think it's made us better, more compassionate people, especially for people that work in the justice system. So
the verdict did leave a chance of parole, obviously way in the future. Are you satisfied with the verdict?
I'm extremely satisfied with the verdict. I think Judge Dorow nailed all the points well. I think that we have to put some compassion in everything, and she's very good at it. She's very good at making sure that the story is truly portrayed as it really is, and I think it was in this circumstance, and I think that justice was served.
Well, Jessy had some points today in a nearly 2-hour statement. Any rebuttal to her or reply to anything?
So I understand where you're coming from with that, Charlotte, and I think it was very consistent with the character we've seen of Ms. Kurczewski. I think she decided to take a very low road today. I don't really want to give it any more attention. I think we've closed the book on Ms. Kurczewski finally, and I think today really is what I said in sentencing. It's really about focusing on who Lynn Hernan was and the great things she did for those actually closest to her and those actual loved ones of hers.
This is for Anthony. When you hear Lynn has been maintaining her innocence throughout all of this, and the lawyer now talking about filing an appeal, what do you think of that?
I think a liar is going to do whatever they need to do. I think a liar is going to say and do whatever they need to do to get out of trouble. This is something Jessy has done from the beginning of all this, and I don't really think that her comments or suggestions really have weight on my feeling about the verdict or anything like that. I think she's a master narcissistic manipulator that spend the majority of her life behind bars.
That's right. Snark it up, Anthony. Stefan said, this is Randy Sitzberger, District Attorney. So right now who was speaking was Anthony Pozza, a family friend of Lynn Hernan's friend. And that behind it there is the prosecutor, Randy Sitzberger. This is attorney Abby Nikolai.
Could you also speak to the order of Lynn's remains to now be returned to the family within 48 hours, what that means to you and the rest of the family? Have closure on that?
I think that's probably the biggest deal for my family is making sure that we lay Lynn to rest the way she would want, which I've discussed with Jimmy and Keith, and that's something that we hope we'll get some closure on here in the next couple days, and are able to plan some sort of memorial this summer in honor of Auntie Lenny.
For the district attorney's office, do we expect any further charges to be filed in this case?
We can't really comment on any ongoing investigations, of course. There's nothing filed right now. We're keeping all avenues open for potential charges. As we do anytime a crime is committed within Waukesha County, we vigorously prosecute that. So that would be our intention in this case as well.
Yes, I like the sound of more charges because she's only going to be eligible for parole when she's like 80 years old. So, she's about to turn 40. And so, yeah, add more charges. I like that.
Any other final questions? Joe, roll ahead.
I have just one last one. Judge Dorow alluded to it on the stand, but do you think there was any truth in anything Jessy said in the letters from Lynn today? I use air quotes when saying Lynn.
As I said in sentencing, I don't think anything Ms. Kurczewski says is true.
Yeah.
I think she's earned that reputation full well, that if she says something, you better check it out many times before you believe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you, everybody,
Thank you all.
for coming this afternoon. That concludes our news conference.
Excellent. Okay, so what we just did was out of a 6-hour court day, I think it was actually longer than that. Hold on 1 second, please. I'm going to double check that for you. 6.5-hour court day, which included, of course, coffee breaks, lunch breaks, all of that. It was like a full trial day. Oh my goodness. Full day that Judge Dorow put aside for the sentencing, and we can see why. Jessy Kurczewski earlier spoke for, I don't know what, 2 or 3 hours. We're going to see some of it. I don't think we're going to watch all of it because honestly, she just lies. As they just said, she just lies. So what we did was we started the stream by watching the sentencing first, press conference. Now we're going to go back and we're going to watch the victim impact statements. And then what else happened in the rest of the day? You know, what they showed us, they showed some evidence earlier as well. As I said, I could just glance when I had a moment, but there was some evidence that I would love to watch with you of her and that freaking letter she wrote. For those who don't know why her sentencing was delayed for so long, go and check out the playlist because we read through her long letters to Judge Dorow and the things that caused those delays. And it's unbelievable. My goodness. So, let me go fetch that for you now. Hold on 1 second. Are we ready to teleport to the next one? Okay, here we go. So, I'm going to get it for you. Is it this one? Yeah, this should be good. I want to boost it. Okay. And here we go. Jessy Kurczewski in the courtroom. This is how the day started. Let's teleport. Go. Judge Dorow arriving. Judge Dorow arriving in the courtroom. I hope I'm not too loud. I hope I'm fine. I hope the sound that side is fine. Okay, so do you understand what we're doing? That's what we're doing today. We watched the sentencing. We watched the press conference. Now we're going to watch what else happened in court, including victim impact statements and other evidence of what happened with that letter.
Oh, not my chair. Court will call State of Wisconsin versus Jessy Kurczewski, 21 CF 885. May I have the appearances, please?
Good morning, Judge. Randy Sitzberger, Abby Nikolai, and J.J. Crawford appearing for the state, with Detective Nathan Plennis and Aaron Hoppy joining us.
Attorney Russell Jones, on behalf of the defendant is present in court. Your Honor, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. We are here today for sentencing following the nearly 3-week plus trial that we had last year. Has the state complied with victim rights in terms of today's hearing?
Yes, Your Honor, absolutely. And many of them are here today with us, certainly Anthony Pozza, and will be making a statement to the court.
All right. And the state's prepared for sentencing?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
And Attorney Jones, you and your client are prepared for sentencing?
We are, Judge. Thank you.
We know that the court obviously had ordered a pre-sentence investigation.
Damn, the defense attorney's got a loud voice. We are, Judge. Oh, damn. Okay. So I'm putting on the top there morning session replay for now, okay? We're just going to watch the replay now of the victim impact statements and all of that.
Following the trial attorneys being allowed to withdraw. I've read through that. There was a private PSI that was also submitted. I've reviewed that as well. Ms. Kurczewski submitted a letter in December of last year that I had indicated when it came in I would review that as part of the sentencing material, so I've reviewed that as well, reviewed my notes from the trial, and otherwise just look through the...
I might put it on 1.1 speed at some point because we do like to do that. We can, put our custom speed here. Grizzly custom speed, okay? So I might do that at some point as well. If you've already watched all of this, I would love it if you would stay and watch with us because, of course, I'm going to be making commentary here and there. I'll try not to interrupt too much. But let's see what they've got to say. If there's anything that I could see deserves our snarky pants to be on, okay, then go change your pants, put your snarky pants on. And that's going to be when Jessy Kurczewski talks for sure. Okay, but for now, let's watch what happened.
electronic file that I have as well. I don't, oh, and there was one letter also filed by Attorney Jones that I've seen as well. So I don't think I've missed anything. I will mention, obviously, I have the materials that were provided by the state at the end of November of last year that I've reviewed as well. And I trust the state will provide any updates regarding that. And we'll go from there. Anything either party thinks I've overlooked in terms of what has been submitted to the court?
Okay, for now, I'm just have to interrupt quickly because I see there's people with questions. If you don't know anything about this case, just click on the description box, click more, it'll expand. You can quickly read the case background that I've written there for you. There's a playlist. Look at the trial prep, okay? You can look at day one, the trial prep, day one, day two. There's presentations that I did there for you, and you'll catch up in no time. Lucky you. You can watch at 1.5 speed as well. So I'm not going to waste too much time now going over everything again because we went over everything. We did such a deep dive on this case before and we watched the entire trial together. And this is already going to be a very, very long day, and it's an all-nighter for me pretty much, I guess, because it's, you know, it's almost midnight over here and we've still got hours worth of stuff to watch. So I hope you'll go check out the playlist that I've made for you.
From the state?
Nothing about the item submitted. I do, logistically, we do have some photographs that the victim's family brought that I would like to present, and I just want to know logistically with the cameras where that might best be suited so Your Honor can see them, but they don't block any camera coverage.
Do you want to do them electronically or are these physical?
They are physical, and we have an easel to display them on.
I think I can see the easel from here. If you want to bring it closer in front of the jury box, that's fine as well. I did forget to mention, I also have all of the restitution information that was provided. There's a significant packet, a letter brief from Attorney Taylor on behalf of Mr. Pozza, and then the response by Attorney Jones. So I do intend to go through that as well today, so make sure the parties address any arguments they have regarding restitution, and if there are any requests related to that, let me know as well and I can address that. All right, anything else the court needs to go over before we start with the state's sentencing presentation? From the state?
I don't believe so.
From the defense?
No.
All right. Then one other thing, I anticipate that our hearing today will last a considerable amount of time. Certainly want to take appropriate breaks.
With this breaks like that, we'll teleport right through that.
I also anticipate that once both sides have completed their sentencing remarks and presentation, I will take a much more lengthy break. I'm hoping it coincides with the lunch hour, but there's no time limits I'm placing on anyone before I come back and announce sentence. So with that, I'll hear from the state.
Thank you, Judge. Logistically, I just want to start with the restitution issues. I know that's being disputed right now, but whatever's ordered, I'm asking as part of this sentence that the court order under 949.165 that Ms. Kurczewski not be allowed to profit from any interviews or book deals or movie deals or things of that nature, and that any money contracted with her for such things go into an escrow account with the Department of Correction to go towards any financial responsibility she bears in this case. The second issue is, and I've just turned this over to Attorney Jones today, the state did just receive an invoice for our expert witness from NMS Labs. That bill is for $16,728.74. The state is asking that Ms. Kurczewski be responsible for that as well under 973.06.
Nice. Make Jessy Kurczewski pay.
Sub 1, sub B. And I know I'll deal with the more specific restitution somewhat separately from sentencing. But regardless of what's ordered against Ms. Kurczewski, those are the state's requests as it pertains to her financial responsibility.
Thank you.
Your Honor, from there, I just want to tell the court, and I know you already know this, but today is about Lynn Hernan. Ms. Kurczewski had her day, actually multiple days in court, and today we get to turn to focus on what this really is about, and that's Ms. Hernan. And to begin with, then, I want to invite Anthony Pozza and Jim Kelliher to talk to the court and really let you know who Lynn Hernan was to them. So I'm going to have them start off our presentation.
All right, we will provide a microphone. If you want to stay, obviously, behind the bar, please. We'll make sure it's working. All right, what I would like you to do is to first of all state your first and last name for the record.
My name's James Kelliher.
Thank you.
James Kelliher.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I would start by like to thank the jury for reaching the right decision in this case. It was a very tragic case, and Lynn deserved that outcome. I would also like to thank all the law enforcement, detectives, local police, and all the attorneys for all their hard work, and everybody that helped with this tragic case over the years. Thank you.
Ooh, I did catch a glimpse of this, and I just want to say, get your snarky pants ready, because this guy is so an honorary Grizzly as well. He is an ex-boyfriend of the victim, and they stayed long-term friends, and he cared about her and still cares about her very much. So it's nice that, did I spell his surname right? I'm going to have to check. It's nice that he's speaking first. Let's hear it.
I would also like to thank you, Judge Dorow, for getting this case moving and keeping it moving. Thank you, Your Honor. One last thing we'd like to know is where's Lynn's ashes at? We would like Lynn back. Nobody seems to know where Lynn's ashes or remains are. So we've been looking for those, and we would like those back so we can give Lynn a decent burial.
So we found out at the end of sentencing there that it actually Jessy Kurczewski's mother has Lynn Hernan's ashes. I mean, what is wrong with it? We know the answer, everything. But Jessy Kurczewski and her mother, why were they holding on to Lynn's ashes this entire time? As Amy Short said, a family member of the victim, Lynn Hernan, she said in chat earlier, they didn't know that. That hit them really hard. That broke their heart even more. I mean, oh my goodness, to find that out now, 5 years later, what? That is so sad. And they better hand it over. And it better actually be Lynn's ashes, right? So that she can be put to rest properly.
Your Honor, excuse me. Excuse me 1 second. I can't see without my glasses. Your Honor, Jessy cruelly murdered my friend Lynn Hernan. I would like the court to sentence Jessy to life in prison with no chance of parole ever. If Wisconsin had the death penalty, I would be asking you for that. Your Honor, Lynn was a kind, caring, giving person. She had a heart of gold. She would help anyone at any time. Lynn was a real sweetheart. She had the looks. She was a very beautiful lady. She had the grace and style. She was a real class act. She loved the outdoors, the sunshine, the beaches, going out on the lakes, the wave runners, or on the pontoon boat. She was also a great cook, and anyone that knew her loved her cooking and her baking. She was also an awesome beautician. Lynn was a lady that always had to look her best, and she always wanted her customers to look their best also. Lynn was also an animal lover. She had a few cats and dogs over the years, and we believe that Jessy also had those put to sleep. I believe Jessy is pure evil. Your Honor, Lynn did nothing wrong. She inherited money from her parents so that she had money to live on or live out the rest of her life. But Jessy had other plans. She looked up online on how to kill somebody and not get caught. I believe Jessy started poisoning Lynn in 2016 and stealing Lynn's money and her property. Jessy poisoned Lynn like she was a rodent. Lynn was not a junkie or a coward. That would be Jessy. She continued to poison Lynn until she passed away October 3rd, 2018. The pain that Lynn must have been in for years. Jessy's pure evil. The devil lives inside her. She tried to steal Lynn's identity, which could never happen for the simple fact she's too damn ugly, inside and out. She's the worst of humanity. She's a useless human being. She's a known liar. She's a thief, and now she's a convicted murderer.
Yes, you tell her.
Jessy, when you get to your new home, I hope you are taken advantage of and treated the way you treated Lynn, and passed around like a used piece of meat. Life in prison without parole is the least of your worries. To cheat a woman in women's prison is going to feel like a Holiday Inn compared to where you are headed. The devil awaits you. I hope you rot in hell. Lynn Hernan is an angel in heaven. May you rest in peace, Lynn. You're dearly missed and always will be. I'm so very sorry. God bless.
Oh, that was such a good roast, right? Oh, man. Cass says, this crime or trial affected me deeply because except for going to the grocery store ever since my mother passed on, I'm all alone and I could one day be just like this dear woman. I hear you, and I'm so sorry you feel that way. But just know, you're not alone. You're a Grizzly. You're here with us. And you know things. We learn things from these cases. You know, there's so many lessons. You'll never, ever end up like this. Okay? So, wasn't that such a good victim impact statement? Oh my goodness. I wish we could have seen Jessy's face during that. I'd prefer to see James's face, but you know what I mean. Wish we could see how she reacted to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Dear Jessy, we write this letter with the hope you are in a state of reflection and introspection. We write to you under circumstances neither of us could have imagined, circumstances that have altered the course of all of our lives in profound and irreversible ways. We want to start by expressing the depth of the pain and loss we have experienced since the tragic events that unfolded. The void left by the absence of Auntie Linny, our close friend, is immense and unfathomable. Her laughter, her kindness, her presence, these are now memories we cling to amidst the darkness of grief. The pain of Lynn's absence is not solely ours to bear. It echoes through the lives of her friends and all those who were touched by her warmth and generosity throughout her life, whether it be during the holidays or on a random afternoon or evening for an appetizer and drink. We are not writing out of vengeance, but rather out of the need for understanding, closure, and perhaps even healing. I implore you to acknowledge the gravity of your actions and the irreparable harm that you have inflicted upon so many lives. Incarceration offers an opportunity for reflection, redemption, and rehabilitation. I urge you to use this opportunity to confront the demons that led you down this dark path and to emerge from this ordeal as a better, more compassionate human being. We also want to take this opportunity to share with you the humanity of Auntie Linny. She was more than just a statistic, more than just a name in a news headline. She was a beloved friend, a cherished family member, a bright light extinguished far too soon. These are the most important things to be remembered about somebody who is deeply loved by many and taken out due to selfish greed. As you serve your sentence, I hope you reflect on the impact of your actions and find the strength to atone for them and stop your life of deceit and lies. I hope you know your charade is up and that you will never fool anyone again. In closing, we want to express sincere hope for healing for myself, my mom, my dad, Keith and Diana, Jim, and for all of Lynn's loved ones, and even for you, as I do know Lynn never knew it would be someone who became so close to her that would slay her. May we all find the courage to confront our pain, the wisdom to seek forgiveness, and the compassion to embrace the possibility of redemption. With hope for a better tomorrow, the Pozzas and family.
And for the record, that was Anthony Pozza.
Shame. That was such a nice speech. Unfortunately, no one knew that Jessy will be like, you know what? I'm going to talk for 2 hours instead and make up even more lies. I mean, nothing will ever stop Jessy. She will never stop lying. She'll never face what she did. I've never seen anyone like her. And then again, I say, well, Daryl Brooks sure was interesting. It's quite a few of them, you know, but Jessy, oh man. Okay, so continuing.
Thank you, and thank you to Jim and Anthony for those statements. Your Honor, I want to start out by saying that when the state's team approached what we'd be asking for, and certainly a number of people asked us, what's the issue at sentencing? It's a life sentence, and of course, as this court knows, the biggest decision Your Honor has is whether Ms. Kurczewski ever gets the chance at parole. And I would think as a judge you'd have to evaluate that by really trying to look into the future and trying to see any redeemable qualities a person might have. And I think as I go through my sentencing remarks, you will see that Ms. Kurczewski has demonstrated really that she has none, and that she's only a future risk to the whole community if she's given another chance to victimize people. She will do it. So I want to start out by Ms. Kurczewski's background prior to even coming into custody on this case. And it goes back to February of 2010, where she was charged and ultimately convicted for what's commonly referred to as ID theft. Certainly some of these came in at trial briefly, but not all of her prior crimes. And in February of 2010, Ms. Kurczewski was working at a health clinic when several patients of that health clinic were contacted by their financial institutions to be informed that loans were being applied for in their name with their personal information. And it came to bear that Ms. Kurczewski was using her position as a receptionist at that health clinic to steal these individuals' information and apply for 8 different loans, 2 of which were honored in the total amount of $4,000.
More charges.
When she was caught and arrested, she did say that she did this because she wanted to pay her rent and had been out of work for 6 months. And this will become a theme of Ms. Kurczewski, that instead of working harder or getting a better paying job, she finds ways to steal, con people out of their own money, or money that isn't even with them yet when she applies for loans in their name. For that conviction, along with several others that she was sentenced for at the same time, she received 1 year of initial confinement and 3 years of extended supervision. While that case was pending, between March and April of 2010, so the consecutive months, there was conduct that was never charged but used as a read-in offense in the Milwaukee courts, where she was again taking out payday loans in other people's name. Over those 2 months, she did it to the...
Yes, Susan says this is prior years. Yes, prior years. Yeah, so not more charges for this, but I'm sure that they could uncover many other things that she did in her lifetime, right? Because Jessy Kurczewski has actually pretty much never not committed crimes, right? It's her prior convictions. I wish they could find more charges.
The tune of $12,502. Again, that, similar to what we saw in this trial, involved essentially a shell game using different vehicles and using those as leverage to obtain title loans from title loan companies. In fact, as of April 2010, the Milwaukee Sheriff's Department reports indicated that payday loan was reported to be owed $22,343 in fraudulent loans that Ms. Kurczewski had taken out with them. Then in July of 2010, in a case that was charged and was brought up briefly in this trial, the defendant used her own mother's identification to try and obtain a loan from payday loans. Workers there recognized Ms. Kurczewski almost immediately due to her past conduct over the previous months. They sort of delayed her and contacted police while Ms. Kurczewski sort of waited for this loan to process. When the police came and confronted Ms. Kurczewski, as became another theme throughout this trial, when she realizes she's in trouble, she tells just lies. Bold, nonsensical lies. And so at age 26, she tried to convince the officers who were speaking with her that she was her 46-year-old mother. She was able to produce a driver's license, a social security card, and even her own mother's checkbook to try and substantiate. The police, with good common sense, did not believe her, told her that the payday loan store people recognized her as somebody who would rip them off, at which time Ms. Kurczewski just tried to leave, and then when not allowed to leave, again changed her story, lied, and now tried saying she had the permission of her mother. In that case, when police went to talk to the defendant's mother to see if that was true, the mother at that time stated that it was not true, and that this is what Ms. Kurczewski does, and she was ruining the family's lives with her fraudulent ways. Then, in September of 2010, she was now charged with forgery, along with multiple counts of felony bail jumping. There, after stealing from her mother, she went to live with a friend in a upper-lower duplex, as I understand it, where the friend's mother lived downstairs. Well, the mother and Ms. Kurczewski's friend were off working. Ms. Kurczewski, who was not working, helped herself to the victims, that being her friend's mother, her driver's license, social security card, and a copy of that individual's We Energies bill, pretended to be that victim when calling the financial institution to add herself to that victim's account, and tried to obtain loans there as well. She was sentenced for that offense as well to 1 year of initial confinement and 3 years extended supervision. In yet another case of forgery in October of 2010, after she had now been kicked out of her mother's house and kicked out of her friend's house after stealing from them, she was staying at the Mainstay Suites in Oak Creek and was found to have been passing bad checks to pay for her rent there. Again, when she was convicted of that forgery, one additional fact, when she was made to wait in the lobby to talk to police about passing a bad, what purported to be a certified cashier's check, another fraudulent document, she identified herself as her mother again. And then finally, when police said there was no way that was possible, she did not look 46 years old, she now admits she lied and knew that she had 3 warrants for her arrest on the previous cases at the time. When she was convicted of that, she was given 1 year of initial confinement and 3 years extended supervision consecutive, for a total in January of 2011, when she was sentenced, to 2 years of initial confinement and 6 years extended supervision. She served her confinement time until release on extended supervision on October 9th of 2012. By November of 2013, she was placed on a hold in relation to a first offense OWI conviction of hers. That hold, went till November 25th, 2013. And then a few short weeks later, on December 9th, 2013, she was again placed on a hold for a fraud offense. That hold lasted until March 27th of 2014, at which time she was formally revoked and was officially sent back to prison until February 23rd of 2016. So really about 26 months of time there. That February 23rd, 2016 release date is crucial to this case because really only months after her release from prison for a number of financial crimes where she simply did not care who she affected, whose lives she ruined or at least inconvenienced, she started this very sinister plot. And I think that's the absolute appropriate word for it. Remember what those closest to Lynn Hernan said at trial, that in summer of 2016 is when they started noticing Lynn Hernan becoming sick. Yes, a lot was made about certain back problems going back to the 90s and perhaps other health problems related to just natural aging process, but something in 2016 was different to those closest. She was going to the doctor, going to the hospitals for stomach issues, and we went through a
This is a great timeline.
great
Because it shows Jessy Kurczewski's behavior before, how she was incarcerated. As soon as she got out, Lynn starts getting sick, which is what we all speculate. Just went right back to committing crimes.
many medical records, and the very consistent thing was that the doctors couldn't figure out what was happening to her. And I'm not here to argue beyond a reasonable doubt that the poisoning started back in 2016, but what I know happened in 2016 was Ms. Kurczewski started getting checks in very large quantities that were outside Ms. Hernan's normal pattern. You saw that Anthony Pozza, for his graduation, got a check from Lynn for $200, and that was pretty large sum for Lynn Hernan to write out to people. And yet at the same time, Ms. Kurczewski is receiving checks for $2,000, and it goes on to be $10,000, $13,000, multiple times. And that all started in the middle of 2016. Additionally, in 2016 is when those closest to Lynn Hernan felt like she was becoming more distant. And I think this court has seen enough cases where that's a pattern of con artists, of diabolical people, to try and separate their target from people who might step in and say something's off here. Somebody who might step in and say, Lynn, where is all your money going? Let's check it out. Somebody who might say, who is this Jessy Kurczewski woman who's all of a sudden in your life, answering your phone, telling us things? And that's what Ms. Kurczewski did here. When we talk about the theft...
Do you guys remember when Jessy Kurczewski was at the house the day that Lynn Hernan had been murdered, which she reported that she has died? She literally was wearing scrubs. I don't even think she was working at that time in a position where she had to actually wear scrubs. That is so weird, just to add to that, right? Glamorous Girl, your comment just reminded me of that. Thank you so much all for being here with me and also keeping me awake, you know. We're going to go into midnight now. Now we're going to go into midnight and the early hours of the morning. So here we go. I really appreciate you being here with me, and I'm very sorry that I couldn't start the stream earlier today. I really wanted to, but I had a prior commitment. So let's continue watching this. It's horrible to hear all the things that Jessy Kurczewski did. Her whole life, just about, right?
It went on between mid-2016 all the way up until the date of death. And I think it's absolutely an aggravated theft, as aggravated as it gets. Not just because of the amount taken, tens of thousands of dollars, not just because the duration it went on for, but it was undeniably Ms. Kurczewski's biggest motive to kill Lynn Hernan. There were two real motives that I can see, both born out of complete greed. A, Ms. Kurczewski knew that prison awaited for her if she was caught. She had been to prison before for these exact same offenses. She didn't want to go back to prison. And B, and the real cold-hearted motive here, is that Lynn Hernan was out of money. Ms. Kurczewski had taken it all. She had maxed out those credit cards. She had used up the $250,000 that Lynn Hernan was worth upon Ms. Kurczewski's release date from prison in February of 2016. And Lynn Hernan was simply of no value, unfortunately, to Ms. Kurczewski anymore, except if Ms. Hernan was dead. Because as Ms. Kurczewski showed us, the very next day, she's going into that bank lockbox, taking whatever was in there. She knows she's the PR of the estate, and what does she do, Judge? She continues stealing tens of thousands of dollars. This was absolutely a premeditated crime, and we know that because in May of 2018, Ms. Kurczewski is telling those closest to her, her boyfriend, her live-in boyfriend, Scott Craig, that Lynn is in a coma at Frederick Hospital and she's probably going to die. Ms. Kurczewski had already set the stage for what she was going to do. In July of 2018, we know she's downloading PDF files to her phone. Criminal Poisoning was the title of one. There's 3 separate PDFs downloaded, all dealing with cyanide. There's one PDF entitled, Have an Exit Strategy, Chemical Suicides. And another simply titled, Household Poisons. We know these were being accessed by Ms. Kurczewski in July.
PDFs. She's like, I'm going to bypass Uncle Google, copy paste, make a PDF, and hide those. Still found them.
Of 2018. We also know that she deleted those in February of 2019 after the medical examiner's office told her they were not allowed to give her any more information about Lynn Hernan's cause of death when she starts to see the walls closing in around her. We had to recover those. They were deleted, but nevertheless accessed on her phone 3 months before Lynn Hernan's murder. Again, even when Ms. Hernan was in the hospital and we heard Jim Kelliher calling her, trying to make plans, Ms. Hernan didn't answer her phone. Ms. Kurczewski answered her phone and told Jim Kelliher that his longtime friend did not like him anymore and he should stop calling, never call her again. Again, attempts to isolate even a week before her murder. So the theft in Lynn Hernan's life is absolutely as aggravated as it could possibly be, Your Honor. And we would ask for a maximum sentence there of 5 years initial confinement, 5 years extended supervision. There's simply nothing mitigated about that. Ms. Kurczewski had no less than 2 years to stop herself, to say, this isn't right. This is somebody I consider a family member. And she didn't. She just kept going until Lynn was worth nothing to her. And then she killed her. We talk about the premeditation of that murder. I also want to talk about how remorseless she's been. From the very beginning, Ms. Kurczewski poisoned Lynn Hernan that morning, left her house, knowing what was going to happen. You saw she researched tetrahydrozoline poisoning. She was well aware of what it would do to somebody. And she left Ms. Hernan to die alone, and she didn't even give it a second thought. Instead, what she did was go and immediately try to open a JCPenney account in Ms. Hernan's name. She bought a big screen TV and some other...
While the victim, Lynn Hernan, was dying, because Jessy had been putting Visine eye drops in her, I think everything, pudding, drinks, soup, everything, but into her water, apparently, okay, for a long time. I would speculate. We don't know exactly how long, but maybe from 2016, maybe it was 2 years. But then leaving Lynn alone like that to die, and then go shopping on her name, trying to open a JCPenney's account on her name, already right then, while the victim's dying, she's out there being like, woohoo, shopping, big screen TV, can you believe it? If you never saw this trial, hope you watch the replays. There's still plenty of people watching replays of the Letitia Stark trial. I see comments every single day. And actually, many of the trials we have covered, so it's never too late for a trial replay. Thank you so much, Glamorous Girl. Really appreciate it. Yeah, watch out for the elder neighbors.
electronics from a business in Illinois. And she spent...
I actually said that in the wrong term. Not watch out for our elder neighbors. Watch out, meaning take care of. Yeah. Keep a lookout for. Protect our elder neighbors. Yes.
Good amount of money at Kohl's on Lynn Hernan's card. That's what she did, knowing her so-called friend, what was portrayed as a mother figure in defense opening, knowing she was dying. What else? We know that Ms. Kurczewski did come back to find Ms. Hernan dead. That's true. Maybe the only true thing she said in this whole case. But we know that when she found her dead, she didn't grieve, she didn't regret, she got to work. She said, I'm going to get in trouble for this unless people believe it's a suicide. And she got to work crushing up pills, sprinkling them on Lynn Hernan's dead body, making it look like a suicide. No remorse, no second thought, no my God, what have I done? Just getting to work, covering tracks, lying. That's who Ms. Kurczewski is. And then, of course, continuing as personal representative to steal tens of thousands of dollars from the estate, helping herself to whatever it was that she wanted. Not one day thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. I've already stolen hundreds of thousands.
If you didn't know, that's the defendant. Actually, she's not the defendant anymore. That's the convicted killer, Jessy Kurczewski. And she's not going to be eligible for parole until she's 80 years old. She's 39 now. The victim was 62.
I killed my friend.
And this happened in Waukesha, Wisconsin.
And enough. No, not one day has she regretted what she did. I'm sure she regrets getting caught, but she spent that money on nonsensical things. Buying bars full of people, drinks and food, spending it on slot machines, going to Potawatomi. That's ultimately what she killed Lynn Hernan for. For stupid video game slot machines and being popular at the bar because she was tipping big and buying people rounds and buying people food. That's what Lynn Hernan was worth to her. Even after that, when she was arrested and the estate case was in contention, Ms. Kurczewski had the gall from prison to file documents 81 and 82 of that 18 PR 561 case, where she tried to convince Judge Maxwell that Anthony Pozza failed Lynn's real test. And we heard about that a little bit in trial, with this fake will and how it was all a sham and Anthony failed. He failed the test. And she had the gall to ask Judge Maxwell to not only remove him as the new personal representative, but Ms. Kurczewski tried taking more money. She said Judge Maxwell should award her.
Look at her. She's like, no, I didn't. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Also, Glamorous Girl says, whatever came of the letter sent from the prison with exonerating evidence, does anyone know? We're going to be seeing, just from the little bit of glancing I could do today, we're going to be seeing a little bit of, like, I almost said body cam, but camera footage from the prison and Jessy Kurczewski being very shady. So I think that clears up some of what happened with that letter. It makes her look ultra guilty. That's all I know.
Anthony Pozza's $13,597 payout, which was all that was left from what should have been a larger estate. She didn't even want Anthony to have that small amount relative to what he should have gotten when Ms. Hernan passed. Her greed knows no end, Your Honor. I want to talk about the other very overarching theme of all this, Ms. Kurczewski's lies. Attorney Nicolai said it best in trial that when Ms. Kurczewski's in trouble, she lies. She doesn't care who's caught in the wake of that lie. She doesn't care who gets in trouble. She doesn't care whose reputation is ruined. She doesn't care whose financial accounts get ruined. She just cares that she doesn't get in trouble. And we heard that applies to everybody.
Am I allowed to growl at her? I feel like growling at her. When I look at her, can you just imagine a dog looking at her that would just growl? I feel it.
To those closest to her, Scott Craig and his family, she told them that she was working all that time she lived with them, and that was simply not true. She went to the lengths to get up and get ready and put on nursing scrubs and pretend to go to a job she did not have. The big lie, of course, was that she told Scott and his whole family that Lynn was in a coma. She didn't just stop there. She told Scott's family, his kids specifically, that Freighter Hospital, which Lynn was never at, violated her do not resuscitate. Again, very detailed lies to convince, to gain people's confidence, to try and trick them so she doesn't get in trouble. She lied to the police. She staged the crime scene. You heard the immense number of times she changed her story. What began as she didn't know, and she would be surprised to think Lynn was suicidal, went through several iterations, really ending with her having to pull a gun out of Lynn's hand because Lynn was about to shoot herself in the head, she claimed. We now know that's an absolute lie. It was Ms. Kurczewski buying 2 guns. That's very concerning. That would indicate that at some point along the way, Ms. Kurczewski's plan may have been to shoot Lynn Hernan. That ultimately ended up with the...
I just love how well the state presents this timeline over and over again throughout the trial. Now again, of course, that's their job. That's what they've got to do, but they do such a good job. Vanessa said, I admit, I watched the sentencing earlier. How dare you? I'm just kidding. I watched it earlier, but darn it, did I miss your snark and eyebrows raising G, which is why I'm here now. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I was only able to catch some of it. I had a crazy day. If you're on Patreon, you know some of what I did this morning. That was long. Very long train ride, okay? And then the rest of the day was also crazy. Anyway, moving on. We are here now, watching together. Thank you so much for being here.
The defense telling this jury and trying to convince this jury that Lynn was drinking Visine every day and wanted to kill herself. Trying to portray her as a pill-popping alcoholic. And that was not true. But again, if Ms. Kurczewski can avoid trouble, what does she care? She lied about having exculpatory evidence. In perhaps the most ridiculous statement she made out of all of them was her telling Detective Hoppy that she had evidence that would prove her innocent. And when Detective Hoppy said, great, where is it? She said, I'm not ready to give it to you. And then it was, check the lockbox. In April of 2019, she tells Detective Hoppy to check the lockbox that she knows she cleaned out on October 4th, 2018. When that didn't work, she shifts again. Now there's a storage unit somewhere. And she laughingly says, there was never any storage locker. I made that up. I was going to get one, never did. Ha ha ha. No remorse, no understanding of what she did and that she's caught. What's my next lie? What's my...
Okay, let's go. Ha ha ha, Jessy, ha 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 ha. Forever. At least until you're 80 years old. You're in there. Yeah, no getting out. And I think Judge Dorow did such a good job of making sure she covers all bases for the appeal, right? Because Jessy Kurczewski and attorney definitely going to appeal this sentence, but good luck with that, right? I think Judge Dorow covered all the bases there. I hope so.
My next lie. Think quick. And so we go to this absolute asinine idea of her burying evidence in Whitnall Park. And I think Ms. Kurczewski is the type of person that believes if she says things loud enough and long enough, people will think it must be true. We don't even have to waste our time. It must be true. But she's always going to lose with people like Detective Hoppy, who said, fine, you think there's things buried in Whitnall Park? I'm going to send my detective out on a hot July day.
I won't interrupt too much. Okay, I know you have a commentary, but I know it makes it longer and longer. This is Detective Hoppy over here. Shame, dude. You had to listen to that. Jessy Kurczewski for so many hours. This poor guy, he's so tired of her. He's more tired of her than we will ever be. This one, he did such a good job. And if you don't know what they talk about, I hope you'll watch the trial. But Jessy Kurczewski made up, out of, I think she had 6 police interviews. Yeah, she just kept talking, okay, and changing her story. One of the stories was that she actually buried a box in Whitnall Park, which is where she buried a bunny that died. I think she said bunny, a pet that died when she was a kid, which is also weird to throw in there. But this box would have, I don't know, a taping of Lynn's voice saying, that she wants to end her own life and that Jessy must just get everything and all of that. And she actually wrote that letter to someone saying, can you try to recreate that? Like she wanted someone after being found guilty, before the sentencing, because it's been months now. She wanted someone to go and create that box for her. It's a crazy story, okay? This whole trial is a lot. I'm so glad she's been sentenced now at last.
100-degree weather, and he's going to dig up Whitnall Park where you tell him to. We're not going to let you get away with this. We're not going to let you sit and think and tell this judge there's still evidence buried in Whitnall Park. They followed through with every one of her nonsensical lies to prove that that is what she is, an out-and-out pathological liar. The same will be true about the letters we referenced in December 12th, and I'll get there. So she's lied to those closest to her, she's lied to the police, she's lied to courts. She's filed a fake will in Judge Maxwell's court in the probate case. And she lied to Your Honor on December 12th when she told you concerning this packet of letters that was found after trial. She sat here and adamantly declared to you she did not write them, that somebody must be setting her up. And I would tell Your Honor that what we've learned about Ms. Kurczewski is that she often likes to use phrases as, I swear to God, I'm telling you the truth, I'm not lying. And every single time, the very next statement that comes out of...
Who just had a flashback when she's like, swear to God? We know when Kurczewski says, swear to God, okay, that is a blatant lie. She's a crazy story that she's about to tell.
Her mouth is a lie. She told Your Honor on December 12th she absolutely did not write these letters. Corrections officers were interviewed to see if they helped her. That's a mark on their reputation, that they would even be suspected of that. But it had to be looked into because she said she didn't do this, and yet they were on her trial notes. She wanted people to believe that somebody went through the garbage, got her trial notes, and tried setting her up for a case she'd already been convicted of. She doesn't care, though. She doesn't care about the reputation of anybody as long as she can avoid trouble. So I'd like to share my screen at this point, Madam Clerk, if I could. Thank you.
Go ahead. Jessy, you're not that important, okay? People are not making up lies about you conspiring, doing all sorts of things. This is not a conspiracy against Jessy Kurczewski. No, no, no. It's a long criminal history. And now, ending with murdering someone. I mean, taking advantage of someone who was 62 years old just to get all their money. Gross.
Put it on TV first. Is that what you want?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So, Judge, and I'm presenting the judge, Your Honor, for showing
here we go.
the attorney.
Here we go, everybody. Is this her? Here, wait. We're going to see now. Okay. It's in the jail. Let's have a look.
Jones. This is the original envelope. I know Your Honor's already seen it. I can mark it as an exhibit after. But I want Your Honor to be able to look at that, specifically the seal of that envelope, where you'll see a white substance near the tear of that seal.
It's on the back.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
So what I'm playing is jail video from Ms. Kurczewski's pod. To orient Your Honor, Ms. Kurczewski is in the cot on the left side of the screen, 2 up from the bottom, coming off the left wall there. You can see her legs extended straight in front of her. You can't see her head, but you can see what appears to be a sheet of paper on her lap.
Would that be on the...
Where? Oh, is it behind me here? Wait. This? I might have to brighten this up for you. Okay, hold on. Let's make it brighter so we can see. I think here. Wait, I want to pause this quickly. Let's just make it brighter for you. Ah, busted! We see. We made it so damn bright now. Okay, wait. There we go. Okay.
What appears to be a blue in color bed sheet.
Correct. And I want this court to remember that it was Ms. Kurczewski on December 12th who said multiple times, check the videos, check the videos. When you see these videos, I believe you will agree that Ms. Kurczewski said that confidently to try and dissuade people from looking at these videos. And what I can tell you before I play this, and you can see in the lower left corner, this video is from November 21st, 2023 at 7:25 p.m. You'll notice on that envelope that it went out of the jail on November 22nd, 2023. I can also tell you as an officer of the court, if we played more video, you would see that Ms. Kurczewski had just been transferred to this pod 3, at approximately 6:30 p.m. that same night, November 21st. From there, again, if I played all of the video, you would see her sort of clean her cot area, set up her bed, put all of her documents into some gray metal bins that I believe inmates can
She's in her cot, everyone.
lock up and secure their documents. And then at 7:25, when I play, I'm just going to play a brief portion of this. What you're going to see is Ms. Kurczewski take various papers, put them into a gold envelope, and towards the end of this clip, you're going to see her not be able to seal the envelope. And as Detective Plennis watched this, you're going to see what we believe her using toothpaste to try and rub on that seal to ultimately seal this envelope. And so I'm playing from 7:25:06. There's no audio.
Okay, so she's in a little cot over here. That's what we call busted. If you don't know about the letter, you gotta check it out on the playlist. There's a whole story with the letter which delayed the sentencing for a long time. Yeah, Leslie says big girl prison will be a culture shock. Is she using toothpaste now?
And I'm pausing at 7:26:27. From there, Ms. Kurczewski sits in her bed. I'm going to fast forward and go to a different camera angle, this being Unit B Sleep 1 angle, at 8:01:47 p.m., that same date.
She's smiling at herself in a little cot. Yeah, okay, here she's here now. Different angle. There she goes.
As it plays, we can see Ms. Kurczewski has walked across the sleeping area of this particular pod holding something. I would direct your attention to the top cots, the second one from the left, where Ms. Kurczewski is now headed, where she has placed an item on that mattress. That mattress belongs to an inmate, and I'm pausing at 8:02:19. That cot belonged to an inmate named Amy Hanna, who was housed with Ms. Kurczewski at the time. Fast forwarding to 8:07:14, just a few minutes later, we are going to see Ms. Hanna come into picture and go to her cot. I'm sorry, let me skip ahead just a little bit.
Thank you, Cherry. Yes, this is proof that she wrote the letter and he's getting someone else to handle it because she claims she never wrote that
Picking
letter.
up at 8:08 exactly. We can see Ms. Hanna is at her cot currently. She has picked up that item Ms. Kurczewski left on her bed.
Oh, yeah, okay, here. You know, like Big Brother, why can't they have live cameras? It's probably against human rights or whatever, but like live cameras of all these criminals and alleged criminals in their cell. You know, we could just tune in, see what they're up to.
And Ms. Hanna leaves the sleeping area sort of leaning up against a wall for a few moments before ultimately leaving at 8:08:34. We're going to pick Ms. Hanna up at that same exact spot on what's labeled Pod 3, Unit B Day. So again, the same exact timestamp, 8:08:34 there at the bottom. And we can now clearly see what that item is a large gold envelope that clearly Ms. Kurczewski left on her bed. Pausing at 8:08:46. There's another camera angle that would simply show Ms. Hanna handing that gold envelope off to the corrections officer in the immediate adjoining room there. And that corrections officer places it in a tray behind his desk until 11:15 or so, when the corrections officer's shift is over. As per...
It's like she's enjoying this. Look at her. She's like, oh, really? I mean, wow. This one is the gaslighter of all gaslighters, you know? She says it didn't really happen. It didn't, okay? Just like no matter what the evidence says. She could see herself there. She's like, no. Or she's enjoying this little show. You know, kindergarten-looking jail. She's in her little cot, everyone. She's got a little friendie to help her.
Per jail policy, when the officer on duty shift is over, they take all of the mail down to a mail room inside the jail. That's exactly what happened here. There is a moment from that camera angle where the CO sets that envelope that Ms. Hanna gave him after Ms. Kurczewski left it on her bed. I would direct your attention, I know it's a grainy image that I zoomed in on, but I think you can clearly see the two stamps
appear to be the same exact ones on that envelope that was ultimately received by the woman who reported to the sheriff's deputy that had all of Ms. Kurczewski's instructions to create new evidence in this case. You have now seen the direct trail from Ms. Kurczewski's bed to Amy Hanna's bed to the CO station. One thing we were wrong about back in December was that this absolutely did go out through the mail. The Waukesha County Jail, we've learned, contracts with a private business that collects all the mail. Eventually it does go to the post office, but I believe because it was stamped as having been mailed from the jail, it doesn't go through the normal...
These two giving, well, she's trying to give him the side eye. She's like, but he's just like not, he's just like shifty eyes, like, what, where do I look, what's going on, what? Yes, that's your client, sir. Oh, there's Freddy now. Freddy's flying around. If you don't know who Freddy's, little buggy that flies around here sometimes.
Processing of the post office where they stamp over the postage stamps, for example.
How can you
that we
deny
see in
this?
Our normal everyday mail. Again, you can see that went out the following day on November 22nd. The woman who received that envelope told Detective Plennis that it absolutely, she was convinced, came from Jessy Kurczewski. Detective Plennis didn't stop there, though, after finding this video. He went and spoke, and we can stop sharing my screen now, please. Thank you. He went and spoke with Ms. Hanna on December 22nd of 2023. Ms. Hanna was not given anything. She did not ask for any consideration. Her case had been resolved by that point. I believe she was waiting to go to prison. But Detective Plennis asked her if she mailed out any items for Ms. Kurczewski. She said yes. She said that after our December 12th hearing, when the letters and envelope were shown on the news stations, Ms. Hanna got scared and asked Ms. Kurczewski if that's what she mailed out. Again, you might not be surprised to learn Ms. Kurczewski lied to Ms. Hanna and said, no, I wouldn't get you involved in something like that, not at all. But then Detective Plennis showed Ms. Hanna the envelope that Your Honor has before you and said, does this appear to be it? And Ms. Hanna said, yes, it is. I'm pretty sure because I remember that, while pointing to the J in the recipient's first name. Ms. Hanna then became visibly upset when realizing that she mailed this for Kurczewski and stated she did not know what was in it or written on the papers inside. Your Honor rightfully asked for more information regarding that packet in December, and I think we've shown you now well beyond reasonable doubt that Ms. Kurczewski sat here and lied to Your Honor on December 12th when she said she did not write those things. Now that we know for sure that she did, we have to consider the effects of that. I told you about the corrections officers that had to be interviewed by detectives in their own department. That's a certain level of embarrassment. Ms. Hanna had to be brought down. That comes with a certain risk in the jail if people know you're being brought down to talk to detectives. In fact, detectives were very wise to move Ms. Kurczewski's location, something she complained about to Your Honor, because they did not want her housed with Ms. Hanna after Ms. Hanna gave us this information. Additionally, you'll recall that the entire reason we couldn't go to sentencing on December 12th because Ms. Kurczewski, after Attorney Kukler and Attorney Galaviz worked hard for years to give her a defense, she within days did not care and threw them under the bus, building into her letters that it was their idea. She always tries to build in escape routes for herself. If I get caught, I have this way out. But it doesn't work when people dedicated, like the detectives behind me, follow them all up. Say, okay, maybe she's not going to be on video because she was adamant that we watch the videos. That didn't stop Detective Plennis. He watched hours and hours of jail video to come up with those clips to say, okay, we got you.
Look at him, shame behind the prosecutor here. She's like, hours of my life I'm never getting back. Hours and hours to actually catch her in what we just saw. Stefan says, Pablo, poor Pablo. He was so betrayed after working so hard for Jessy Kurczewski and Donna Kukler. Wonder how that feels. She didn't just stab you in the back, she stabbed you in the face. Wow. Good luck to the new attorney as well.
And what does that mean, Your Honor? It was said by somebody who was closest to her in her life during this trial that she is diabolical. I think that's absolutely true. She could have said nothing. It's one thing to not be remorseful and not say, I'm sorry, and to maintain your innocence. That's one thing. It's a completely different thing to try and cook up evidence, to try and convince other people to cook up evidence for you, to try and continue making this look like a suicide, when Ms. Kurczewski knows well that she killed Lynn Hernan, and she did it for greed. And so I want to leave you with this. Ms. Kurczewski did not just steal hundreds of thousands of dollars. As you heard at the beginning of this presentation from Jim and Anthony, what she stole was a woman who enjoyed spending holidays with her close group of friends, like making snack mix, like making food to bring over to the party. But on a more in-depth level, what Ms. Kurczewski stole from this community, from Lynn Hernan's community, she stole birthday parties and birthday gifts from Jim Kelliher. She stole daily phone calls and lunches with Keith Lang. She stole lunchtime drop-ins and conversations about her dad's war experience with Anthony Pozza. She stole handwritten birthday cards every year from Corinne Pozza. She has not 1 second shown any regret or remorse.
Flapping through some of those papers, seeing what she can take back to her cell and be like, what else can I write? I'm about to write another letter.
All she has shown is more wild and ridiculous lies that we have tracked down every time. And so she's going to get the chance to talk to Your Honor. And I would bet that she's going to say things like, I swear to you, I'm telling you the truth, I'm not lying. And I want you to remember, Your Honor, as you listen to that every statement that comes after things like that is an absolute lie. She has earned that reputation, that you cannot trust a single word she says. And so I tried to look for any reason why life without a chance at parole is appropriate, and it's absolutely not. She will victimize again if she's given the chance. She should absolutely not get that chance. She should go to life and never have a chance at parole. She should be sentenced to the maximum 5 years initial confinement on each of the theft counts and the 5 years extended supervision, and those should be run consecutive. That's the state's recommendation, remembering and acknowledging today is about Lynn Hernan, who was left because of this defendant to die alone and leave all her close friends behind. Thank you.
Someone said earlier, this camera person is on point or spot on. They're very good in this trial. Yes. Roro said, oh, was it the letter that she was pretending that didn't wrote? That was part of that whole letter package. I mean, that letter was so crazy. That's when I got Kurczewski flu. Do you remember? That's when we started saying Kurczewski flu, because after reading Jessy Kurczewski's, I think it was a 35-page letter, I literally lost my voice for like 2 weeks, okay? I eventually had to incorporate freaking AI to try to say some things for me. Wow, Kurczewski flu, you don't want it. Those letters were so crazy. I mean, speaking as a friend of Jessy's, and then the next minute speaking as Lynn. I mean, it was, if you've never seen it, go watch the read-through, because if you like snark as well, we snark it up quite often over here, right? Especially at criminals, that's when we do it. But there, her letter, oh, that was memorable, okay, because I can't believe what she wrote. And now she's busted. Okay. Yeah, Cherry's like, that letter did our Gisela in. That letter finished me off. Okay, so we're almost an hour in out of 6.5 hours of trial footage for the day, but that includes coffee breaks and lunch breaks, and there's no way that I'm going to listen to 2 to 3 hours of Jessy Kurczewski lying more. Okay? She was given a fair trial, she was found guilty, and she was sentenced today. There is zero reason for us to sit and listen to the same crap again, where she's again going to victim blame. Okay, we are going to look at a little bit of it. We'll get snarky, but I don't want to play however long. Do you know how long exactly she talked? Because I don't know. I don't know. But it's 2 hours or 3 hours. Hell no. So, we've still got something to watch. I'm still going to be here with you for a while. I'm just letting you know. If you've already seen that, don't worry. I won't exhaust you, double exhaust you, because we're not going to watch the whole thing. I will link the original court feed in my description box, okay? So that you can go find it there if you want to. And I'll put a clue in there, a timestamp, as to where you can watch that, because what Maybe they've got timestamps, actually. I don't know. What the hell? I heard some of that, and I'm like, she's still talking. I even showed Mr. Grizzly. She's still talking. Wow. Okay, so let's see what happens next.
Thank you. Hey, Jones, if you want, I think this would be a nice, just short break. We'll take about 5-10 minutes, and then we'll come back to hear your sentencing presentation.
Thank you.
All right, Sharon.
Time for the teleport. Here we go.
Recess, everyone.
Are you ready? Who's ready to teleport? If you don't know what teleporting is, welcome to Grizzly True Crime. It means we defluff, we abbreviate, we skip these types of things instead of sitting around staring at I don't know what for 15 minutes. Let's go forward, or however long they said. Wait. Here we go. So that was the state speaking before the sentencing. Now it's going to be, I think, the defense. Let's just see. Okay, we're going forward. There she is. Thank you, Kraken.
Be seated. Might want to switch chairs later.
I like how Judge Dorow is just like, where's my chair? I would feel so weird if I wasn't in this chair that I'm always in. It is like a gaming chair, but it's so comfortable. I'd be like, where's my chair? Judge Dorow doesn't have her chair today. We saw as the court started, she like sat down and she's like, whoa, that's not my chair. So she's like, where is it? I can't wait to get my own one back. We would know the feeling, right? Mary said, I don't think I could handle it. Plus, I don't want to get Kurczewski flu. We don't want to get it, okay? So we're not going to listen to all of what she's got to say because it's a load of bullcuck.
You have the tall one? Yeah, but we'll do it later. All right, we are back on the record. Appearances are as they were before. Attorney Jones, you may start your presentation. Do you intend to speak right away or have others speak first?
Just give me 1 second, please. Okay. Yes, Your Honor. I would actually have her family speak now. I know her mother's here, and I know that Kathy's also here, wants to speak. So I don't know what order they want to go in, but I would invite them to speak first.
All right, obviously one at a time. Whoever wants to go first, that's fine. I will need each one of you to, before giving your statement to the court, to state and spell your first and last names for the record.
My name is Kathleen McCarty, Kathleen, capital Carthy.
Thank you for being here. What would you like me to know?
Honorable Judge Dorow and court member.
She sounds familiar. Is that like, that's not the snarky neighbor, right? She sounds so familiar. Kathleen McCarty. Okay, here we go.
My name is Kathleen McCarty, and I'm a very close friend of Jessy's. We met 2 years ago when I was sentenced to 4.5 months at WCJ at the age of 70 years old. 1 week in, I was placed in Pod 3 and was quickly informed about some of the inmates. And first was Jessy. She was known as the Visine killer and was awaiting her murder trial. Somewhat scared, I watched a lot and saw that some inmates treated her as a human being and others as a disease. Not very nice. Jessy pretty much kept her.
I hope they treat her as a disease again. And also, let me say, obviously this is now people speaking for Jessy. Okay, put your snarky pants on. If they're not on, I've got mine on. My snarky pants on, okay? We ready? We're ready. What else was I going to say? It'll come back to me now.
To herself, feeling like a leopard and really not knowing how the jail works, especially at my age, Jessy approached me and asked if I'd like to sit at her table, share meals with her, play cards. I accepted. Throughout the next 4.5 months, we ate together, played cards together, prayed together. She and I became almost like mother and daughter. Well, more like grandma, granddaughter.
Lucky you didn't, though. Otherwise, you might get some Visine in your vodka. Or your water, soup, pudding. Did she have any eye drops with her? You got any life insurance, lady? Any money? What you got there? Yeah, you are next. Okay? So, you should be thankful you're alive. Okay? Don't you think? Anyway, she was got a next target for when Jessy got out, right? She's like, ooh, when I get out, I'm going to be this lady's going to be my friend. So going to leech off her. Wow. The thing I was going to say is that Jessy obviously also had little tricks to delay her sentencing and ultimately going to prison. Because look, the jail looks like kindergarten. It looks so freaking comfortable to me. I don't know. It looks like little bunk beds and little carpet and the, little dining and eating area with the chess and cards out. Like, no. That's too comfortable. Too comfortable. And again, I'll bring up one more time. Just look how they're treating Richard Allen, okay? Look how they treated Jessy Kurczewski. Overwhelming evidence. Versus Richard Allen, I'm just saying. Okay, but Jessy is not going to go to prison. Ooh, she's going to have to grow up real quick. Because it's not going to be like that.
And between our many hours of conversations consisting of politics, religion, our family, pets, friends, her case, her prior bad acts, and likes and dislikes, I got to know the real Jessy. She is a caring, giving person. Many women who come in and go out of that pod have nothing. No family, no money, no friends to help and support them. The food in the jail is absolutely horrible, and I didn't eat much of it at all. Thank God I have a family that cared and could help me out with eye cares and money on my account. The people with nothing were recipients of gifts from Jessy.
That's right, Hecky. Ma'am, don't eat or drink with her. FFS, don't, ma'am. No, ma'am, please. Don't eat or drink with her, okay? Ever. Don't visit her ever.
Every last one of them. It was from sometimes body wash, combs, cups, ramen noodles from an eye care, paper, pens, use of the phone of her money to call their loved ones and their kids. After watching her do that, I in turn helped. Well, she and I did this continuously for the time I was there, and she continues to do it today. She also plays peacemaker, if she can, with 25 to 30 women in one area, and you saw how small that area is. The dynamics in...
Okay, first world problem. Sorry to say, but that's a first world jail. Come to South Africa, lady. You want to say you want to see how small that jail is, how overcrowded. Our cots are almost touching. No. It's not that small. And there's carpets. Everyone's got their little crocs, They've got bed sheets. No. We're not feeling sorry for Jessy or when this lady was in there. Sorry about that.
In there is not always conducive to peace and harmony. I know she had to calm me down on more than one occasion. I truly have never lived like that, nor been treated like that ever. Jessy has been through all of this and still helps people survive and keep them from losing their mind. While there, Jessy started a nightly devotion before bed. She starts with something from the daily bread, a Bible reading, or something she was given by the people who hold the Sunday services in prayer groups she attends weekly. These nightly devotions are still being done every night as of today. Throughout Jessy's time here, she has worked tediously and tirelessly reading over and over her discovery, writing letters for help for her defense, trying to keep her faith through this good and bad news and multiple attorney changes. She prays for the best outcome, knowing she did not kill Lynn.
You see, I know there's going to be some people that say, why are you snarking at this lady? Because I'm protective of the victim, and I cannot imagine what the family and friends are feeling when they hear crap like this. Of like, Jessy did not kill. She did. Accept it. Stop with the denial and the daily bread. Okay, put that down. Okay, look in the mirror. You see that? Look behind you. That's Jessy Kurczewski. She's got Visine. Just be careful. Like, I just, no, lady, denial. It's not a good look. It's not a good look right now. Fighting for Jessy, no, she did it.
The conviction was a total blow for her, her friends, and her family. As devastated as she is, she continues to work on her own behalf to get an appeal. Her mother and I talk and work together in any way we can to assist Jessy. Jessy and I speak daily, if not more than once a day, and I visit her weekly and have done so since I have been out these last 2 years.
Careful now,
I am
lady.
asking the court not to sentence her to life without parole. Even though the jury found her guilty, I believe that she does not deserve that severe of punishment. I would wish that the court be lenient as they can and as the law allows. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Thank you.
Isn't it so weird when it's exactly someone that would be Jessy Kurczewski's target, you know, the same type that just cannot read the room, just can't see it. If it happened to her, she'll be shocked. What? I didn't see that coming. But the clues are all around you. The clues are all around you, lady. She's going to use your name. She's going to use your ID. She's going to ask you to buy stuff for her. Just warning you.
My name is Jennifer Flower, Jennifer.
Ooh, Jessy's mother. The mother speaks, the one who was holding on to Lynn's ashes that we only found out later. Wow. This is actually quite fun watching it this way around. The sentencing press conference, now we're back to the beginning because we learned things from there that we can now talk about here. Okay, so this lady, Jessy Kurczewski's mother, who might face charges, who knows? Who knows? There's a lot of things we saw in the trial. Like, could she have been involved in some of the forgery, or what happened to Lynn's cats? And where are her ashes? It's weird how she held onto that, right? Okay, so let's have a listen here. Wait, I'll update my banner quickly.
Flower, Flower. I'm Jessy's mother. I have a letter I have 2 letters I would like to read that were written from Lynn, and then I have some things to add to that. Jenny, I have known how to...
Okay, so we got the BSer in the room again. We already know when she says, I'm going to read 2 letters from Lynn. They're not from Lynn. Your daughter wrote it. Read the freaking room.
I don't know how to begin this. I know you are going to have the hardest time when I am gone. You were my rock, when my mom passed. You have no idea how much that meant to me. You know, things were always difficult between my mom and I. I let her get the best of me, and I have had to live with my mistakes that have been suffocating the air out of me. I have hit a point of no return and cannot live like this anymore. I am a liar, a cheat, and a fraud, and I am tired of it all. I still remember our pool lake days, baking in the oil, drinking away, paddling around from bar to bar. I wish I was still living by or on the water. I hate this condo and always have. Jenny, know that I have tried. I have tried so hard to be like I used to be. I don't know exactly.
Just a crazy story. I also almost said a little lovely houndstooth, but yeah, it's not a houndstooth, but it's something.
What happened to me, but it's too much now. I can't fix this. I am so lost. My biggest worry is for Jessy. She has seen me through so much and been with me through so much. I don't even know how to tell you or if she has ever told you any of it. She has kept all my secrets and has told so many lies for me. I don't know if anyone will understand. She has been here through it all, screaming at me, crying with me, laughing, and taking care of me. I have watched her grow up, and I am so proud of the woman she has become. I wish I got to meet her boyfriend, Scott. He seems like a keeper. I have never seen her so happy. I only wish for her happiness.
Everybody chanted with Emily now, perjury, 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 right?
I hope for a wedding and kids of her own, too. I know she adores his, and I have seen the pictures. I hope she has an easier and a better life than us. And maybe Even you will finally find Mr. Right, too. I wish everything wasn't such a struggle for you. You deserve to stand on the beach. Love.
We already heard this BS with Jessy's packet of letters. It's all coming back to me now. Remember? We already read a letter just like this. Yeah. It's being reread. Now, okay.
Love, Lynn. September 3rd, 2018.
So I'm saying Jessy wrote it.
Attached also is some additional pages that she had added. It says, this is October 1st, 2018. I, Lynn Hernan, being of sound mind and body, want to state I have changed my will in 2018 to take Anthony Pozza off to not being included in my life as Jessy is. She has done so many things for me and has been my caretaker. I have not heard from Anthony in over almost a year. Parentheses. As far as I'm concerned, he does not exist. He is selfish. I only hear from him because he is in the will.
I don't like it. Ew. How could she read this? She's reading Jessy Kurczewski's letters, and she's actually standing there doing it. Actually calling Anthony selfish. You know, just hurting people even more. Yeah, no, cuff this lady too. Okay, let's bring the cuffs out.
I feel like Corrine makes him keep in contact with me so often. I also removed Corrine, parentheses. She hasn't been my friend in years. I do not know if they even care about me anymore or just my money. They are fake, blank, phony friends that I have cut blank out of my life, parentheses, as a backup. All except for a few items to go to Jessy, the Jeep to Jenny. I know there is going to be some issues with property and Jim and Keith, parentheses. Nobody was there for me except my true family, blank the rest. I owe nothing. I owe them nothing. They only will care about what they get. I know too well. End of parentheses. Jessy has a list as to who gets what. I left everything with instructions. I'm sorry to leave this way, but I give up. Jessy and Jenny, I love you both. You were both always there for me. Thank you. Sorry, Mom. I never meant to hurt you. I just want to see my dad again. I am so sick of being sick.
Sure, you're also going to accuse Lynn of killing her own mother. You should be ashamed of yourself, lady. Cuff this lady, right? I wish it worked like that. It doesn't work like that. They have to be able to prove things, of course, but oh my goodness.
Sick. I don't want to be in pain anymore. I hide in my house all day because I can't function daily. Nobody talks to me, but I don't know. They will come running to take my things. Ha ha. Blank them all, parentheses. But nobody can even call me on my birthday except for Jenny, Jessy. Can't count on Anthony to take me to the doctor or even check on me. Blank ass phony friends, exclamation mark. I don't want nobody to get a thing of mine that isn't written for them on my list. F that. F my list. Nobody gets blank. I changed my mind. Jessy, do not write the following. Do not follow any list. Do not give anyone anything. I do not want anyone.
If the behavior panel were to weigh in, would they not say it's quite interesting? She doesn't look up once. No eye contact, just looking down the whole time. Yeah, you should be ashamed. Look down. Shouldn't be reading this.
In my condo, taking what they want. I want them to get nothing. Sell everything you can. There's so many bills. Parentheses. Remember, only pay creditors who file claims. End of parentheses. Get help from the attorneys. Gather all the paperwork. Do not let anyone take over my condo. Sell it. Tell Jim you're...
Look at the nice highlighted bits. Jessy's like, say that with some extra spunk. Say it, Mom. She's like, okay, I'm just going to read this out to everyone. All right, here we go.
Taking his blank to court for every penny he owes me money for. He pisses me off. And his drunk bitch. Sorry. I have done all. and could do no more. Jenny and Jessy get all my shit and nobody better stop them. Someone please contact the list, tell all to get blank, follow my instructions. I'm headed out on my own terms and how I want. Like my mom, I have changed my will of my own free will into what I should have done sooner. I did not write it myself because clearly it looks like blank, like me. Parentheses, I had Jessy rewrite.
Look at her trying to act here. This is so distressing. I'm about to conjure up a tear. Oh, man.
Write it in the parentheses. I know Jessy, and she doesn't want to do any of this. Funeral, bills, condo sale, etc. But she's the one I trust and knows my stuff. Remember, Jessy, I love you and will always be there with you. I know how hard this is going to be on you. Take care of your mom and make sure you put down my cats with me. Sorry, it's my time. Don't give them blank. It's my decision. Love, Lynn. So I'm this is a letter for me writing to, I guess, everyone that is here today. And
the photographer's like, camera time. Okay, time to, she's going to read her own. She's like, no, this is a letter from me. Okay, so that other one was a pretend letter from Lynn, one we've already heard before that Jessy Kurczewski crafted. Okay, and Jessy's sitting there like, soothe me, mommy, tell them what I wrote. Emphasize what I highlighted. Okay, yes, I'm looking very sad. Right, yeah, tiny violence.
Sorry that George couldn't be here either. Obviously, my name is Jennifer Flower. I'm Jessy's mother and was Lynn's best friend. I would also like to say this is the first chance I've been able to speak publicly. I would like to say this has been extremely hard 5 years for all, and even longer for my daughter and I. As we have been dealing with years of being there and caring for Lynn, as we really have not been able to mourn the loss of Lynn. Being that instead, my daughter's being accused of her death, and I'd like to tell you briefly a bit about myself. I have come from a very good upbringing, two very supportive, loving parents who are both alive.
That's nice. This is about Lynn, though. We didn't come here for your life story, lady. I was raised really well, okay? Okay. And where is this going?
Alive and in their 90s today, and obviously could not be here.
Okay.
There are 5 of us siblings in my family. Some have passed, some are out of state, so a lot of people are not here. This has been extremely hard on us all as a whole.
Where are the victims?
Like Lynn, my daughter too is an only child and had a very good upbringing with lots of cousins, aunts, and uncles, and was extremely close with my mother. Lynn and I had known each other for over 30 years and were as close as sisters. The 3 of us were family. We had been there for each other through thick and thin. I also knew Lynn was a very troubled individual with many demons. Things had gotten worse in 2007. This would be the start of her 3-year prison sentence, at which time her father had passed away. In 2010, Lynn was released from prison and had lived with her Aunt June until which time she had got on disability and got back on her feet, so to speak. She moved into an apartment in Waukesha. Years later, began caring for her mother, Lorraine, at her Madison family home. As Lorraine was in need of some help, Lorraine and Lynn did not have a good mother-daughter relationship ever. Things got worse over time until Lorraine's passing in 2013, at which time Lynn asked for my help in assisting her getting things ready for the sale of her parents' home. I spent many days and nights in Madison with Lynn as she was in need of my help and to support her. Lorraine's best friend Bonnie and the neighbors were also there to help as well. Lynn was having a very hard time. One night while staying with her in Madison, I awoke at 3 a.m. to Lynn screaming, yelling, and smashing everything in the basement. She was out of control. She said her mom came to her in a dream and spoke to her. Lynn, in her younger days, when I first met her, was very much a social butterfly. She did love everyone, and she was known to all her friends' kids as Auntie Lenny. We spent every Christmas together, many other holidays, and summers back in the day consisted of boating, paddle boating, swimming, and sand barge parties. Many cookouts, bonfires with the neighborhood lake friends. My boyfriend at the time had lived on the lake across from Lynn. I had best of both worlds. My boyfriend and my best friend living on the same lake. Lynn's parents would come out for the weekend brunches. My boyfriend and I would take them for afternoon pontoon boat rides. Lynn also threw Jessy's graduation party for her at her lake house with friends and my family. Lynn's birthday week was 6/26. We would both take off for the whole week, plan our week, swimming, paddleboarding, lunches, Summerfest, and that was her favorite, which opening day always fell on her birthday. Jessy and I would go camping down the road at a park from Lynn's often. In the summer, she'd always come out, spend a couple hours with us, head back at nightfall, seeing as she wasn't really the camping type of girl. But she'd always be back in the AM with coffee and breakfast for my daughter and I. Lynn has moved 9 times throughout the course of her life, and we have always remained best friends. Never lost touch. Even when in prison, we always wrote each other. When Lynn got out of prison, she was never the same. Something had changed. She was agoraphobic, became very isolated, and suffered from depression. Lynn stated many
That was your daughter isolating her and poisoning her with Visine while stealing all her money. Okay, reality check.
times of feeling guilt over what she had put her parents through. She lost her father in 2007 when she was going to prison, unable to be there for the funeral and all. That killed her, as they were very close. Her mother never let her forget that. Lynn became more isolated, drinking, becoming more dependent on her meds, constantly in and out of the hospital, calling for an ambulance or calling Jessy, Jean, or myself for help in the middle of the night, later refusing help and checking herself out of the hospital, or refusing to let ambulance take her to the hospital. Lynn was very stubborn. You could not make her do anything that she didn't want to do. The doctors couldn't even help her. The doctors refused to see her anymore because she couldn't pass her PDMP, which is prescription drug monitoring program. The doctor felt...
Oh, yeah. So you're back to her being incarcerated, a druggie. Next, it's going to be vodka and Visine, like victim blaming. All the way.
His license was in jeopardy.
Let's see how long it goes.
When Lynn was in need of help or wanted to talk, why is it she only contacted Jessy, Jean, or I? Lynn was also listed.
Who wants to teleport? Let me play it faster, at least for now.
Listed us as contacts for disability, hospital, or in case of emergencies. I didn't find it interesting that the victim and his family were at trial every day, but the victim's family member stated on stand that she clearly was unaware that Lynn was on disability and had state aid health insurance. It was stated that she had no insurance and figured Lynn just wasn't going to seek help for that reason. They clearly were unaware how many times she had been to the doctor or hospital, or that she had just checked herself had been in the hospital and checked herself out right before her death. They didn't even know of her death until we called them. Well, I have come to the realization you cannot help someone who doesn't help themselves. You can only be there for them. I did realize loneliness leads to isolation, depression, heart issues, and death. There are also 3 lifestyles we all have.
So does poisoning someone, yeah, and stealing all their money.
Public, private, and very secretive. Lynn and I had many conversations at great lengths about her current life status and how she was feeling. I do believe she had a part to play in her mother's death, and I do believe in her many...
It's not that long to go. It's 5 minutes or so, and I put it at 1.1 speed, okay?
Conversations. This was something she was feeling very responsible for and couldn't live with anymore. Lynn did explain in her letters before her death. I always asked her why she was so down and depressed. Her parents lived good lives and passed away at an old age. She was an only child and was inheriting the parents' house. She could feel a bit of financial relief and a new start. she could finally relax a bit, her depression just got worse. The state went into one direction, and that's what they stayed with. Instead of looking into Lynn's past and her own demons, the state got it wrong. Also, John Fry, Lynn's cousin, he was not close with Lynn, nor did she have a relationship with him. Lynn was close with John's mother, Aunt June, and lived with her after prison. Lynn did not want us to notify John upon her death. She gave us specific instructions in her letters, so I don't know why he had any involvement in this case, nor had he ever met my daughter or I, which I find funny because I had met Aunt June many times and had been out to her house when visiting Lynn. I also had been out to the boathouse in Beulah that she owned back in the day on many occasions with Lynn. But he thought we were strangers upon listening to discovery interrogations. I am no biker, nor was I ever, nor was I into drugs, or was I ever, nor is my daughter, or was she ever. So they got that wrong. Lynn, Jessy, and I were not mere acquaintances that Lynn just met and Jessy began caring for. We were family, for the record. So please, let's get that straight. Lynn wouldn't have listed us on emergency contacts, accounts, various documents, if she didn't want us on. So please, let's not go there anymore. Her new will was not fabricated or made up. She had changed it for her own various reasons being. No longer had she seen this individual anymore and not being in her life. I didn't state that. She did. Nor did I or my daughter ask to be any part of this, nor do we want to be. There is one thing I am sure of. Jessy did not kill Lynn, nor would she have taken her life. Someone she loved and cared for so much. As Lynn felt the same for her, these two had a bond like no other. I think they were closer than I was with either one of them. Jessy would spend many nights with Lynn as I worked third shift when she was younger. Lynn would plan slumber parties for Jessy and her girlfriends.
And that's the tragedy of it all. Yes, Lynn felt she could trust Jessy. She was close to her. She gave her gifts and treated her well. And Jessy just took full advantage and poisoned her with Visine for possibly years. And murdered her. So that's the reality of it. Sarah Sunshine says, I have no doubt. She was not convicted. There would have been another victim in the future. My dad grew up with an abusive alcoholic and turned into a counselor for this. There is no excuse. Love you, Dad. Thank you, Sarah Sunshine. I really appreciate it. And thank you, mods. I know we've been here for almost 3.5 hours. Really appreciate it. If anyone wants to buy the mods some coffees, you can go to my website, grizzlytruecrime.com, go to the support page, and you can scroll down and find the Buy Me a Coffee link for the mods. Okay, they've got their own one. I've got to buy me a coffee. They've got to buy me a coffee. So if you want to buy them coffees to say thank you for being here, also all hours. If Stefan's still here, same time zone as me. It's late for you, okay? So thank you, everyone, for being here.
Makeup parties. We would regularly have movie nights. Lynn and Jessy would make all sorts of hors d'oeuvres, snacks. We had a pool in our apartments, and Lynn and I were neighbors. We would spend many days and nights at the pool, cookouts. We would pack up our car with snacks and all go looking at Christmas lights around the holidays when she was younger. Lynn would also accompany Jessy on school field trips. At times, she'd bring snacks for all the kids. She was like the den mother. As Jessy was getting older, teen years, Lynn would also do many things with her without my knowledge or consent that I definitely would not have consented to. I do not like the fact that detectives in the state have tried every angle to implicate myself in this matter, whether it be handwritings or whatever. When I had not been to Lynn's house since July, the last time I saw her or talked to her was in the hospital before she died. I had called many times and spoke with the nurses about her condition. It utterly disgusts me and saddens me that my family's name, credibility, have been tarnished so badly. My daughter and I have been there for her and helped Lynn through so many situations. You have no idea. There was a gag order put on my daughter.
Helped Lynn. Also took her Jeep right after she died. This mother drove around, probably still driving around with Lynn's car, which they just assigned to themselves. Sold off all her stuff. Yeah, best friends. I really hope to never have friends like this ever, okay?
The state detectives and so-called friends and family members who she had no relationship with suddenly decided to speak out to any and all news media outlets that they possibly could. The detectives came to my place of employment, tried to interrogate me while they were with a warrant at my house, turning everything upside down where I had lived, where I had a roommate and her son that I was living with. Not to mention, almost 1 year after Lynn's death, I had already moved out of the old residence, and for what exactly did you think you were going to find there? I don't know. Come to find out, old residence that I had lived at prior for over 30 years is where I met Lynn, would not renew my lease after I had been there for that long. I can't imagine why detectives went there and talked.
Yes, because again, you're the victim. Oh no, you couldn't rent your property. Oh no, why were detectives there? Because your daughter killed Lynn Hernan? That's why. Okay, how do you feel driving around in her car and having her stuff and also holding onto her ashes, which is pretty weird, and putting down her cats? How do you feel about that, lady? This woman, my goodness, she's like, I can't imagine why they wouldn't renew my lease. It's not about you. Sit down. My goodness.
To them. I have since relocated a few times and have no longer been working. At one point, I actually lived in my car for a couple weeks. They have taken my every reason for living, other than I know God. He doesn't ask us to take of our own lives. Life as I see it will never be the same. We have been called murderers to cat killers. When I had 6 of my own daughters.
Your daughter is a murderer and you killed Lynn's cats.
Okay? And I took Lynn's 2 in. So they're not murdered and they weren't.
Please keep looking forward, please.
Cats. They didn't deserve this, and I couldn't leave them with strangers. This isn't the first time Lynn has left her animals for others to care for or pack up her apartment. Again, I didn't see any other friends or family they're offering to help out with this or much else. As for my daughter's past,
because you wouldn't let them. You wouldn't let them have anything of value of Lynn's. Actually, nothing. You wouldn't let them have anything. You two were guarding the house and selling her stuff. And Jessy said, oh, it's all in my name. Which it wasn't.
It has been brought to light on trial, and we are all aware. She has a gambling problem. Lynn's past was not to be brought up. But with suicide letters given to jurors, never read in, how much are we aware of Lynn's past? Most of us are aware of CCAP. And we are all aware of how it works. We all have a past, some not as bad as others. With that being said, as Lynn used to say, you can't con a con. So take a look and decide for yourselves. Okay? I can actually mention now, at age 26, Lynn was involved in armed robberies, 5 prior DUI.
F you, lady. I don't know how else to say it. Wow, she really is escalating her victim blaming. Oh, now Lynn, as she's been involved in armed robberies, she's a con and you can't con a con. I mean, seriously? Security. We call for security. Can you get this lady out of there? I can't even say lady. Can you get this creature's mother out of there? Oh, thank you. Oh my word. Just F you, lady. This is terrible. Gross. Okay. Deep breaths, it's almost over.
Money theft and meds. She was let go of her employment that she stole out of her manager's, stole from her manager out of her purse. She had been behind and had to move numerous times because she was behind on rent. And she wasn't, never really worked a full-time job at the salon. It was usually 3 nights a week and for a few hours. I would just like to thank everybody for their time on this. And I would like to say one other additional thing, that the conduct I observed in this courtroom during trial was most appalling and disturbing, to say the least. And it doesn't give me much hope in our system. And I'm
No, sorry. I say our because it's like worldwide, you know. It's an American system. But the system works just fine. Yeah, she's convicted. Okay, she's done. Sentenced. Finished. The conduct was appalling. No, Jessy Kurczewski is appalling. And so are you.
Sure you all know who you are. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Ms. Flowers, was there anything you wanted to say about your daughter's character and what this court should consider at sentencing? Or have you finished your statement?
I do believe that I would hope, you know, I don't believe that she's guilty. So this has been very hard for me. I do not believe that she killed her. I do believe for various reasons that my girlfriend took her own life, and she has a record to show it. And I would hope that I'm leaving it to you to look into this and give it your
Yes, leave it to Judge Dorow. We like that.
deepest sympathy and thoughts on this matter and taking it into consideration. when making that decision.
Thank you. Attorney Jones, is there anyone else on behalf of Ms. Kurczewski who would like to make a statement?
No, Your Honor, I believe that's all.
All right, go ahead.
Your Honor, if I may, just some housekeeping matters. On the state PSI, there's a change on the cover page. They listed the theft as a C-class felony, which was ultimately lowered. That's also an error on the, I think it's the last page, or strike that page 11 of the private PSI. Otherwise, we don't have any specific changes to that. With respect to custody credit.
And let me just thank you for that. Obviously, there's an amended order, really just needed to notate it, but I caught that, and I'm well aware of that, but thank you.
I figured you were, just, for the record. And then with respect to custody credit, we have 1,035 days. I think those are independent from June 5th of 2021 through today's date, not including today's date.
That's a number I came up with as well.
Okay.
Does the state agree with that?
1,035?
Yes.
Yes.
All
That's
right,
what I have
thank
as well.
Good. So we all got the math right. Anyways.
It's always good when three lawyers are involved.
Right, exactly. Anyways, Judge, look, my comments will be extremely brief, primarily for the fact that my client's maintaining her innocence. She wants me to tell the court that. She wants me to tell the court that she didn't commit this crime, and that's she plans to vigorously appeal this. That being said, the court obviously has to sentence on the jury's verdict. The court here has some discretion. Obviously, it's going to be a life sentence. The question becomes when and if do we make the defendant eligible for parole? And as you know, the court can make that as early as 20 years and obviously can also make it without. I always hesitate when I'm doing a homicide sentencing in sort of remembering that each case that comes before this court is without a doubt the most paramount case for a defendant, the victim's family, the defendant's family. But in our system, we have to put sort of homicides on a continuum. We have to look at the worst of the worst and then look back from there. Obviously, to the individuals involved, it is the worst of the worst. But in the system that we have to sort of place them in degrees. And I think when we look at this case, Judge, given that I'm not conceding any of the facts, obviously my client's maintaining her innocence, but with respect to that, this is a case where if we allow the defendant to be eligible after 20 years, she's going to be just shy of 60 years old given the credit. We don't know what the defendant will be like in 20 years. We don't know the person she'll be, and we certainly don't know any sort of danger that she might pose to society. And I think that that's exactly what we reserve these types of cases for that to be reviewed. And I think that review of that is appropriate in this case after 20 years, and that would be my request of the court. With respect to background and character, I think you have more than enough evidence both in both PSIs. I'm not going to rehash them for this court. I don't think that's necessary. But I think what we have here is we have a situation where there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of conflicting opinions. Now, I didn't do the trial, I didn't live the trial, but I've been able to look through both transcripts and recordings of the trial, and I've been able to see a lot of the evidence that was presented, used more than I would if I wasn't involved in the trial and was just asked to do sentencing. And a lot of things struck me in reviewing this trial, and I'm not here to relitigate the issues. I'm just saying that this did strike me as a very unusual case with a lot of issues that I think maybe went unresolved, and so I'll leave it at that. But at the end of the day, Judge, I think that it behooves us as a society to at least take a look 20 years from now and see what Jessy will be in that time frame. And I think that, again, that obviously doesn't allow her to
Nah, we'll give it 40 rather. Or never.
be released in 20 years, and the court knows that. But I think it just behooves us to not throw away somebody's life and not say, hey, in 20 years, let's evaluate where we're at, see what, if any, danger she might pose to the community. She would have obviously had been punished and have some specific and general deterrents. What programming has she been able to engage in? What has she been able to do to move forward and improve herself in that time frame? And then should we allow her back into society? I think to strip the process of that review is just going too far in this case, and I'd ask the court not to do that. So I will leave my comments with that, Judge. I believe that you should allow a review of probation or parole after.
Or not. Mallory says, I was waiting for someone like, oh, it behooves.
20 years of confinement, which would happen by my calculations in 2022. Strike that. 2042. And I think that would be the appropriate sentence. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kurczewski, this is your opportunity to address the court. What, if anything, would you like to say?
Now, people of the Grizzly courtroom, let me warn you. Let me quickly look at this timestamp. I'll tell you now. I will not be playing this entire, however long it is, of Jessy Kurczewski speaking a load of crap Okay, I was able to listen in a little bit, in and out, this afternoon. And it's just the same crap over and over. If you thought her mother's speech was bad, yeah, you're going to hear her stupid ass letters all over again. We'll get Kurczewski flu if we listen to it. We're not going to listen to it. I just want to show you quick preview of what it's going to be like. But it was from 1 hour 43 of the footage. Okay. Now here we are at 2 hours 43. So let's go some more. Yep. Up to, it's almost 2 hours. Almost 2 full hours of her crap. Absolute lies. I wish I had a voice changer for her now to make a chipmunk voice in 2 times speed. Yes, Jenny. Listen to this a little bit. Here we go.
There's a lot I want to say here today. I took the time to write it so I don't forget anything. Please
Do
bear
me a
with
favor. Read slow.
Please
so
bear
the court
with me.
reporter gets everything, okay?
Please bear with me because this will take a lot of time, but there is a lot I need to say. Before I read what I wrote, I want to go backward for a moment and share some of Lynn's words. Days after Lynn died, I found a large envelope full of letters, all from Lynn, 10 in total written to my mom, Jenny, Anthony, Corrine, Jim, Judy, Jean, Keith, Lisa, Scott, and I, all dated between September 3rd through the 16th, 2018. These letters contain personal things as well as things I have never known. These letters were admitted and published to the jury and briefly mentioned during sentencing, at which time some called them goodbye letters and others said suicide letters. But nothing was read from them or shared, and as I sit here today, I want to be able to share 2 of hers before my own. The first is what she wrote to me, that was Defense Exhibit 506, starting with page 18.
Oh.
Jessy, I love you as if you were my...
Shut up. Don't even pretend. How dare you speak for Lynn? Shut up, lady, honestly. If we go forward a little bit, you're probably like, Gisela, never heard you speak like that before. If you've been to a members only stream, you know sometimes this is one of those that, this is too much. So I'm just going to go forward. So that was already starting with the letter. Page 18, okay, highlighted. Now we go forward. Let's go to 2 hours 10.
Bangs curled 2 inches out, teased with so much hairspray, they wouldn't move. She'd be tan, finger and toenails all painted, mostly neon bright colors. She wouldn't go anywhere without her lipstick on or high heel heels until she could no longer wear them. And lots of jewelry, big hoop earrings, rings, bracelets down both arms, and necklaces, mostly costume jewelry or family pieces passed down. She came on field trips, school field trips as Auntie Lynn with bags of candy. Everyone loved her. She loved to dye my hair, one color to the next, dress me up. I remember when I was younger, I would sometimes stay by her at night when my mom would work 3rd shift. We'd watch MTV videos while eating snacks. When I came home from my dad's in Florida one year with lice, after my mom tried everything and couldn't get rid of them, ready to shave my long hair, as I sat crying, she called Lynn the beautician for advice and venting. She recommended kerosene, said it would hurt and burn, but they would be gone. She was right on all of those. In middle school, when I was having issues with some of the older girls, they came to my apartment looking for me.
Yes, Lynn did all that and you still murdered her. Nice. Well done, Jessy. Good job. I mean, seriously. She's like, and then they did this, and that. That's the point, you freaking monster. You really think that anyone wants to listen to this? But remember, she's just like her mother. She'll say all the nice things, and then the next minute, they will throw Lynn under the bus. Now, this person murdered Lynn, okay? She was found guilty. She was sentenced today. She's not going to be eligible for parole until she served 40 years. So, yeah, bye, lady. If you want to see, obviously, Court TV had it, Law and Crime had it. I don't know who else had it, but like, you could just go watch this whole thing if you want to. But why would you want to? This one deserves no more airtime. None. Don't you think? Why should we listen to her anymore? It's done. Your charade is over, like Anthony Pozza said. Done. This is how, let's show her how irrelevant she is. There you go. Irrelevant. No one wants to hear that. This is who it's about. And thank you to Grizzly Cat for making this picture so nice. This is a picture of Lynn that was just sharpened and brightened. Lynn, my goodness. If I could speak to Lynn, I would say I am so sorry for what happened to you. I'm so sorry that you trusted these people. You were so nice to them. Look what they did. Look what Jessy did. and disguised. It's so cowardly because it was disguised as, don't worry, I'll take care of you. I'll be your full-time caregiver. Meanwhile, spending all her money, literally blowing all her money, gambling, buying everyone drinks, buying lavish gifts like bedroom sets for her boyfriend's daughter, and flowers and spa vouchers for her boyfriend's ex-wife. Remember that? Like, what? Jessy would spend all of Lynn's money while poisoning her, keeping her so weak. With Visine. Who would even think of Visine? She Googled that. She had a PDF document with all her research. So, yeah, no. I don't ever want to hear from Jessy Kurczewski again. And we're gonna, you know what? I don't even know if I'll pay attention to it. I don't wonder. She's irrelevant. She's gonna write letters. We know she's gonna appeal the sentence, and we know she's gonna write letters. There will be many letters. It's like Sarah Boone being sentenced to 40 years. Imagine that. I don't know how long Sarah Boone, if she will be sentenced or not, found guilty or not guilty, who knows? The trial's in May. But if she is, it's like Sarah Boone. If you know anything about Sarah Boone, you know, whoo, those letters, they just keep getting written. So there was nothing else. Jessy Kurczewski took 2 hours of the court's time to say all the same crap that she's already said. See, there's Freddy's flying around here. It's getting... Freddy's like, you say it, G. Freddy's little bug that flies around. Carla said, I hope they find her ashes. How could she and they? It's horrible. She deserves to be celebrated. Absolutely. I hope so too. It's absolutely devastating. So, I hope we never hear from Jessy Kurczewski again. Remember, with Letitia Stauch, I said the same. And even though there's, you know, jail calls and body cam and all this stuff, I don't care. Stupid Letitia Stauch and stupid Jessy Kurczewski. If we never ever hear her name again, that'll be great. Just go, serve your time, and never come out again. And everybody who wants to befriend her, like that old lady that's like, she's nice to me. Just be careful now. Don't have meals with her. Don't tell her about your finances. Don't give her anything. Wow. Okay. So, how do you guys feel? Feel free to vent a little bit. That was quite hectic. I'm really glad we watched the sentencing first, then the press conference, and then we went to the victim impact statements. That was so nice. There was justice for Lynn today. Finally. She was murdered in October of 2018. Finally. Justice for Lynn. Now, they need to get her ashes, though, so that she can be put to rest and celebrated the way that Anthony Pozza said they would in the summer. Auntie Linny, right? So Marie says, wait, what? I missed that? Her ashes are missing? Yeah. And apparently the defense attorney said, no, I could say where it is. Jessy's mother has it. And everyone's like, what? Wow. Amy Short, who's a family member of Lynn, says, thank you so very much. This has been rough, but watching together really helped. I'm really glad that you were here with all of us. And well done, Grizzlies. You always make me proud. You made family members feel safe to watch with us. And thank you, mods. That's definitely also because of you. Because the mods keep it Grizzly. You keep it kind and respectful here in chat. And I know you work very hard. So thank you so much. Mace, it's so nice to see you. You said, you survived Jessy's 2 hours earlier. Here to see the Grizzly report. Oh my word. You need a certificate for that. For real. Like, oh my goodness. No, I didn't watch the full 2 hours before. And I'm definitely not going to watch it now. If anyone wants to, yeah, go ahead. But just remember, it's 2 hours of your life you're never going to get back. Never. And Jessy Kurczewski is definitely not worth it. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. What's the time? It's not too bad. It's 1:20 in the morning. Still time to watch some things on YouTube, am I right? Beady eyes in the night. That's how we roll. So thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all again very, very soon. I'm going to do timestamps for you, of course, so that it's easy to navigate between everything that we watched today. Thank you, mods, and see you all hopefully tomorrow or sometime this weekend. Might have to rest a bit tomorrow, but we'll see. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, Hecky. Bye, everyone.